Mr. Mayor, it's now 6 o'clock. Are we ready to begin?
We are ready to begin.
Recording in progress.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Petaluma City Council and the Petaluma Community Development Successor Agency, and tonight, the Petaluma Public Financing Authority, our meeting of Monday, April 20th, 2026. As you know, if you wish to provide a public comment on anything on tonight's agenda, please fill out a speaker card. Those are located at the back of the room, and bring them to our clerk, who is right up here in the front of the room. Also note that we enable concurrent translation services for these meetings in Spanish and a variety of other languages. And to access the translations online, please use the link in the agenda. To access the translation, if you're in the room, there's a QR code on the back door there. And with that, I'd like the clerk to take our roll call for the evening.
Barnacle, absent. Cater Thompson.
Here.
DeCarly.
Here.
Now.
Here.
Quint.
Here.
Shribs.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Wonderful. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, please. And from time to time, the council uses this opportunity to honor a member of the Petaluma community who's contributed to the fabric of Petaluma through their efforts and who has recently passed. And tonight is such a moment. We recently lost Rick LaFranchi, the West Marin dairy rancher and cheesemaker with strong ties to regional ties and Petaluma ties. He also happened to own Silver Screen Video, and he's a longtime video store owner. Before they became a thing of the past, his closed in 2019. But for over a century, the LaFranchi family has had ranching, milk production, organic dairy, and later artisan cheese production. They've all been part of the North Bays Dairy Network, which historically centered in Petaluma as the processing and distribution hub. Rick was involved with Nicasio Valley Cheese Company, which is part of our historical agricultural economy. Rick was a big part of this. He will be missed.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask that we also close the meeting in honor of Jim Dombrowski? He was a great member of our community. He was very involved with the Lafferty Group, and he did a lot of pro bono work for them. He worked with Sherry Cardo, myself, and Doug Daly by preserving the water rights for Lafferty Ranch. And there's just a lot that he's done for this community, and he was a real caring person. So I just want to also add Jim to that.
Thank you very much for adding that. At this point, I look up and down the dais to see if any of the council members wish to make any agenda changes or deletions. And not seeing anyone wishing to change the agenda, we'll adopt it as it's written and as you have in your hands. And tonight we have several proclamations. Our first one is for Arbor Day. And I'd like to invite Charles Little and Eric Leland of Relief, and Darren Rack is in the chair of the Tree Advisory Commission, to come to the podium to accept. And I'll read. Arbor Day, April 24, 2026. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees enhance economic vitality, reduce erosion, moderate the temperature, clean the air, provide habitat for wildlife, and bring beauty and joy wherever they are planted. And whereas on March 16th, 2026, Petaluma City Council approved both the Urban Forest Management Plan to better understand and guide the city's efforts regarding urban forest management, and an amended tree preservation ordinance and associated municipal code to further protect Petaluma's urban forest. And whereas the city of Petaluma has been recognized as a tree city by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices, now therefore be it resolved that I, Kevin McDonald, along with all the Petaluma City Council, do hereby proclaim April 24, 2026 as Arbor Day in the city of Petaluma, and urge all residents to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you, gentlemen. Would you care to say a few words?
On behalf of Relief, I'd like to thank the council for this honor and applaud the idea of having celebrating Arbor Day. It's so important, and what you guys have done has been terrific to moving us toward more tree canopies, protected trees, and a happier, healthier city. So thank you so much. I also want to say that the two of us for Relief standing here are standing in for a whole lot of other people who work for Relief. The people who plant the trees, who do all the organization. There's a whole lot of folks that are standing behind us that do all the work. So thank you for them. And also thank you for Tree Protection Ordinance and the Urban Forest Management Plan. You are really moving us into the future in terms of protection of our trees and the happiness of our town, and protecting the environment as well. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I'll just say really quickly something similar. I'm up here for Tree Advisory Committee, but obviously there have been so many other people on different CCBs, on council, of course, Councilmember Shribs, who have really pushed tree policy forward. So what you guys did on March 16th to pass a tree preservation ordinance and urban forestry management plan sets kind of charts a new course for Petaluma in tree preservation. Now the hard work starts, including one of your items tonight. So I'm excited to see kind of how this evolves, and just thank you for all the hard work and to all those people who couldn't be in the room with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more quick thing to say. I wanted to thank, in particular, on the tree preservation ordinance, city staff, in particular Heather Hines, who just did a terrific job on a grueling kind of effort to make that a much stronger piece of policy. So thank you.
We also tonight have a proclamation for Earth Day, and I'd like to invite up Pranav Krishna, for the Youth Climate Action Commissioner, to help accept this proclamation. And Earth Day, April 22 of 2026. Whereas Earth Day is an annual event that brings people together across the globe to celebrate, protect, and restore the natural systems that sustain life. And April 22 marks the 56th anniversary of the first Earth Day. And whereas the Earth Day theme for 2026 is Our Power, Our Planet, focusing on the pillars of resilience, institutional continuity, shared interest, and interconnected outcomes. And whereas advanced sustainability and community resilience involves policy and infrastructure improvements, along with the collective efforts of residents, schools, businesses, and community organizations, guided by the City of Petaluma's 2024 Blueprint for Climate Action, our comprehensive framework for coordinated action across key sectors. And whereas the city is strengthening resilience and stewardship of natural systems through water innovation, planning for future climate conditions, advancing urban forestry, habitat enhancement, and regenerative land management practices. And whereas the City of Petaluma's Climate Ready webpage highlights the Blueprint for Climate Action, upcoming Future Fest on May 3rd of 2026, and opportunities for community members to take part in shaping a more sustainable future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McDonald, Mayor of Petaluma, along with the members of the Petaluma City Council, do hereby proclaim April 22nd of 2026 as Earth Day in the city of Petaluma, and invite all members of the community to participate in local events, explore available resources, and take meaningful steps to reduce climate pollution, conserve natural resources, and strengthen community resilience. Thank you.
I would just like to thank the council so much for making this possible, and it's really amazing to me that Petaluma is able to take such definitive action to fight climate change and continue to make the city so great and beautiful for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's a big night. We have a third proclamation as well tonight. Our third one tonight is National Historic Preservation Month. And I'd like to invite Stacy Ashley, the Petaluma Museum Executive Director, to the podium to accept. And it reads, National Historic Preservation Month, May 2026. Whereas in 1973, the National Historic Trust the Trust for Historic Preservation established a National Preservation Week to promote historic places for the purpose of instilling national and community pride, promoting heritage tourism, and showing the social and economic benefits of historic preservation. And whereas in 2005, the National Trust extended National Preservation Week to National Preservation Month to provide an even longer opportunity to celebrate diverse and unique heritages. And the Petaluma Historic and Cultural Preservation Committee, the Petaluma Historical Library and Museum, and other organizations, groups, and businesses, and residents support this event and work hard to preserve Petaluma's past for future generations. And whereas the City of Petaluma has several policy programs and ordinances in place which seek to protect its historical resources, including the Central Petaluma Specific Plan, the General Plan, and Chapter 15 of the Implementing Zoning Ordinance, whose purpose is to promote public health, safety, and general welfare through the protection, enhancement, and perpetuation of historic and archaeological resources that are reminders of past eras, events, and individuals important to local, state, and national history, and that provide significant examples of architectural styles which are unique and irreplaceable by developing and maintaining appropriate settings and environments for such history. But whereas the City of Petaluma has Native American and historical cultural resources sites that contribute to the unique character of Petaluma, including 2 locally designated historic districts, the Oak Hill Brewster and the A Street Historic Districts, and 1 nationally designated historic district, the Petaluma Historic Commercial District. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, maintaining community character, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and promoting knowledge of the living heritage of the past. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McDonald, the Mayor of Petaluma, along with members of the Petaluma City Council, do hereby recognize and celebrate May 2026 as National Preservation Month, and call upon the residents of Petaluma to celebrate National Historic Preservation Month by viewing historic resources throughout Petaluma and through exhibits organized by the Petaluma Historic Library and Museum and other organizations that promote historic resources in the city. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor McDonald and members of the City Council, for this enthusiastic recognition of National Historic Preservation Month. I'm honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Petaluma Museum and our partners. One of the most special things about Petaluma is that history isn't confined to textbooks or archives. It surrounds us. It lives in our buildings, our streets, and our shared spaces. It's what we like to call the power of place. Historic preservation is not just about looking back. It strengthens our local economy, supports sustainability, and fosters a deep sense of community pride and stewardship. This past year, we invited the community to reflect on what the power of place means to them, and their responses were inspiring. I'd love to share a few examples with you. One resident shared, "History is tangible with historic preservation. It's meaningful to stand where people of the past stood." Another told us, Historic preservation fills our city with stories, providing anchors as we navigate the present. And another reminded us we can only grow if we know where we came from, allowing all voices and cultures to be heard. These reflections make something very clear. Preservation isn't just about buildings, it's about belonging. It's about ensuring that everyone in our community can see themselves in Petaluma's story. We're also seeing that sense of connection come to life through projects like the Petaluma Signs Project, which is a project by our partners, Catherine Reinhardt and the Petalumans of yesteryear. And it sparked real community enthusiasm by documenting and celebrating the stories behind our city's historic signs. It's a reminder that everyday elements of our built environment can carry meaning and memory. But these community voices also remind us of what's at stake. When historic places are lost, or when we delay for caring for them, we risk losing the stories, identity, and sense of community that make Petaluma so special. Caring for our historic buildings requires ongoing commitment and investment, from seismic upgrades to adaptive reuse. This work ensures that these places remain safe, accessible, and relevant for future generations. It's not just preservation, it's stewardship. At the museum, we strive to bring preservation stories forward through exhibitions like Petaluma Chinatown Unearthed, and through programs and partnerships that connect people more deeply to this place we all share. And as always, our own building, Petaluma's 1906 Carnegie Library, is a living example of preservation in action, demonstrating how we can honor the past while connecting people through a sustainable and vibrant future. National Historic Preservation Month is an invitation to visit, to learn, and to engage. And throughout May, we're excited to welcome the community to a range of Preservation Month programs, including a tour of the Petaluma Women's Club, which was recently added to the National Register of Historic Places, and a conversation with celebrated Victorian house expert Dr. Color, followed by a reception at one of Petaluma's most colorful residences. So I invite you all to join us throughout May for these programs and many more that celebrate Petaluma's history and help shape its future. Thank you again for your continued commitment to preserving the places and the stories that make Petaluma so special. I hope to see you at the museum soon.
Thank you. Tonight we also have a presentation, and I'll remind the audience that at the end of a presentation, we often, council may have comment or question for our presenter, and we allow public comment during public comment on that, so our presenter will no doubt stay in case a question arises during that period. And tonight our presentation is from the Blue Zones. It's an update, and we have Nicole Wartwick, our Executive Director of the Blue Zones Project Petaluma, to help us out. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much. It's a great joy to be here with you, council members, city staff, and community. First, I want to just acknowledge that what I want to present to you this evening is sort of very high level, data oriented, so forgive me in advance for all the numbers and the data that you're about to receive. And as a reminder for the community, we are part of Blue Zones Project Petaluma. We are working across multiple sectors of our community to advance health and well-being for the city of Petaluma, with the ultimate goal that Petaluma becomes a certified Blue Zones community. We are here because of our sponsors. Healthy Petaluma District 10 Foundation were the visionary sponsors that partnered with Blue Zones. They collaborated with the city of Petaluma and with Petaluma Valley Hospital Providence. I want to lift up and thank the city staff first before I go any farther, because so much of the work that we do in partnership and collaboration with the city staff across multiple departments. For example, at this moment in time, we're working with our police department and to build a cross-sector peer-to-peer education with Petaluma High School's Trojan Broadcasting Company to talk about the impacts of social hosting and youth and alcohol consumption. So that's one example of the way in which we're partnering to build a strong fabric across this community. There are countless examples across almost every department of the city. And it's wonderful to be able to have such strength in collaboration to do this work. As a reminder, our purpose is to empower everyone everywhere to live better longer. We can advance the slide. Thank you. There's our sponsors. One more time we can advance. And now I'll get in my cadence of that. Thank you. We could change the slide, please. To set the agenda for what I'd like to share, I want to give you a progress update towards our Blue Zones Project community certification, and then break it down. The Petaluma certification criteria, what that involves, and then a high-level next steps in some of what we're orienting towards future planning. You change the slide, please. This is a nice imagery that gives you a snapshot of where we were when we began this. Our community assessment happened in 2021. Our foundation and planning began in 2023. That's when I joined the project as the executive director. And since then, we've been building this community transformation across the community, activating people in the places where we spend our time and the policies that influence food systems, the built environment, and alcohol policy. Let me change the slide. As a reminder, this is Petaluma's certification criteria to be officially recognized and designated as a Blue Zones community. We need to achieve completion in these 3 pillars. You can see here, the pillars are the work that we do in people, places, and policy. Then we have a selection of community measures that our steering committee and partners helped us identify that in their understanding, as we demonstrate progress in these community selected measures, that would validate our impact across community. Then we have the final Gallup Wellbeing Index measurement, which I'm going to share with you this evening. That we leverage Gallup Wellbeing to be able to give a snapshot of what is really happening across health and well-being. And so as an accountable model, not only are we saying, here's what we're doing, or here's the fabric of what we're building together in community, but also here's the data that demonstrates the impact of what we've been doing. It has been 2 years since our community kickoff, and I'm really happy to share with you that we're making really strong progress in all 3 of these certification criteria. Can you change the slide, please? So we'll start with our pillar progress. We can advance. Again, forgive me for all the data, but I know I get one chance to be able to get this in front of you, so I'm not going to belabor every single detail and point here. But I will share with you this. Across that people sector, it's indicated here things are in progress. Our target goal is 15% of the Petaluma population over the age of 15 is engaged in a meaningful activity with Blue Zones. That meaningful activity looks like either a purpose workshop, a community volunteer engagement opportunity. It could be a story speech and a pledge or commitment that they're going to take action in their own lives. It also looks like cooking demonstrations and other ways that we build volunteer capacity and strengthen across all the nonprofit organizations. We've actually exceeded our certification goal as of last week. A highlight for the engagement work I'll share over this last month, our team has provided purpose workshops for nearly 900 high school students across both of our major high school sites. Then after we conducted the purpose workshops with them, helped them identify their sense of their gifts, their strengths, we brought our community's nonprofit organizations on campus. So at Casa Grande High School, we had 20 nonprofit organizations that have direct service opportunities for our youth. And we set them up in the multi, and we were able to have 900 students come through learn about the nonprofit organizations in our community, and directly sign up to be able to bring their own gifts and talents into meaningful service in our community. In doing this work, we hope not only to help strengthen our youth sense of purpose, but their sense of belonging in community. And this helped meet a need where our nonprofit sector wanted to build bridges back into the educational system post-COVID. So that's just one highlight of what we're doing there. I mentioned the schools. Our goals are at least 50% of our schools become Blue Zones approved, and we're making strong progress towards that. You might also notice in community, you see a restaurant that says Blue Zones approved, or you're looking at a menu item and it has a little icon that lets you know this is a healthier option. We're also advancing that work across grocery stores and work sites. And I know that Petaluma likes to be leaders in initiatives. And I will tell you, we are on track to become the first Blue Zones approved farmers market in the nation. And we've been catalyzing some collective impact work there with the farmers market, not only providing education and resource cooking demonstrations, but also helping to strengthen the Market Match program that provides double up food bucks for our SNAP recipients in the community. Over the holiday, we did a triple match. So we matched the match to help bridge some essential food needs for some of our most vulnerable community members at a time when we know budgets are tight. So just an example of some of the collective impact of what we're doing as we're advancing this work. Okay, next slide. Here we go with our policy work. I'll lift up again some gratitude. Being able to work cross-sector in our community, we advanced wayfinding signage from the east side to the west side along Lynch Creek, providing essential signage in areas where there was gaps and helping to bring greater clarity as our community wants to engage in cross-sector work. So we want to thank Mayor McDonald for his support in that, but also Safe Streets Petaluma, Rebuilding Petaluma, and the city staff. So that's an example of some of the work that we were able to accelerate across the policy. One other I'll lift up that we activated last year. The community let us know that food recovery and equitable access to healthy food was a priority for them. And so we built two different collaborative initiatives, one with Petaluma Bounty and Petaluma Healthcare Center, where excess produce from Bounty Farm and the farmers market gets collected by volunteers, taken to our health center, where the health center packages it up and redistributes it to some of their more vulnerable community members who are coming in for services. The other thing that we did to strengthen our food systems is, as Una Vida had been distributing food at multiple sites, that was creating operational burden. We helped them to consolidate their services at one core site and provide them the walk-in refrigeration that they need to be able to safely store food while they're waiting for their distributions to happen. We can advance now. Okay, let me catch my breath. I told you I said good stuff. Okay, Gallup. You can advance. We use Gallup Wellbeing Index to measure our impact here in community. Gallup measures well-being in these 5 core areas: career, liking what you do each day, being motivated to achieve your goals; social, having supportive relationships and love in your life; financial, being able to manage your economic life to reduce stress and increase a sense of security; community, liking where you live, feeling safe, and having pride in community; and physical, having good physical health and enough energy every day to get things done. So we're going to advance. The methodology, we conducted this study from November to December of just this last year. We sent out 5,100 mailers. There is a $1 incentive. I'm certain there are people in this room who have received it. We had a really strong response rate, 20%. We can advance slides. And so here's the high-level index. There's a lot of subset of data. I sent you a concurrent document that has the full Gallup Wellbeing Index findings that digs in and has even more deeper details in specific areas that we're measuring. But for the purpose of our time tonight, I wanted to just focus on a couple high level. This one you'll notice from 2023 to 2025 is relatively unchanged. However, you'll notice when you look at the column in Petaluma 2025, we are noticing observable declines in our financial well-being, while we're seeing considerable gains in our community well-being. So those sort of balance out when you're looking at the overall index reading. Now, I will say this, after meeting with Dan Witter and learning from his team, and they're conducting this research across the nation, right now, across the United States, we're seeing a steady decline in well-being across communities. So maintaining health is a strength when we see these indicators. And in the areas where we're gaining in community health, it's actually an indication of resilience. So I want to lift that up first before we dig into more of the details. We can advance.
And I think we're heading home stretch.
We are. High level. Overall well-being remains strong in Petaluma. Considering the financial headwinds, we would expect to see declines in healthy behaviors and healthy career metrics given that, but we're seeing that exercise is holding steady. Produce consumption is declining, but staying active and productive are also kind of lagging, right? That's kind of to be expected given that financial decline. We can advance. It's interesting to note depression is down. Significant daily stress and worry have both improved. While we are seeing an increase in people who have at some point in their lifetimes had a cancer diagnosis. The awareness of our project is really strong and actually improved at 25%. We have high favorability amongst the community and high favorability amongst our leadership. We're noticing trends up in volunteerism, which is wonderful. There's consistency in that, and that contributes to that sense of community well-being, most likely a Blue Zones effect. And then to note that alcohol consumption is directionally down. We're not seeing the same level of high-level consumption amongst young adults, but we're still outpacing national levels in our consumption. We can advance. Final thoughts. There's a lot to be grateful for in this community and our health. When I mention the financial declines, I don't think anybody is surprised by that. We're observing that in cuts across the community, everything from our food distribution to our education services to mental health services, physical health services, there are declines. We're seeing the pinch across our nonprofit sector, and these are early indicators of what that can look like. This is the moment we have to lean in and continue building up where we can strengthen community health and other areas to buoy us as a community while we navigate things that might be beyond our influence. We can advance. These community-selected measures are just data I want you to have a high-level look at. We're going to go through it quickly, mostly look at the right column. We'll advance. We're seeing improvements. Improvements in volunteerism, improvements in people spending time outside. We're seeing improvements in the number of food and produce being distributed across the community. Next slide. We're noticing an unchanged in our diet. We had a really high diet quality here anyway. Most noticeable in a decline are percentage of adults with current high cholesterol. We can advance. And these are the measures that were particularly important to our steering committee as we were tracking what's happening with our students' sense of belonging and having trusted adults in community. And we're seeing improvements across time. This slide and the next slide will indicate those improvements. We can advance. All right, here we go. The moment where we all collectively catch our breath. Sometimes in the midst of the busyness, it's really important to invoke a pause, assess where we've been, the good work we've done together, and to align on where we're going forward. We're not done here. We're making great trends, great strides, building strong relationships. But change happens at the speed of trust. And it's taken time to build these relationships and trust. So here we are at this moment where we're seeing the most fruitful impacts of the project coalesce and have deepening impact across the sectors that the community told us they wanted us to lean in and support. So as we move forward, next slide, know that Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation are having discussions about what a potential phase 2 Blue Zones could look like. And you are all invited to participate in those discussions, whether you're attending their board meetings or sending them letters with your insights and impacts. We'll do a final Gallup well-being survey at the end of this year, and our goal is that we're going to have one great big community celebration in December, where everyone is invited to participate with us as we celebrate all that we've done together to build community health in Petaluma, and also to be able to set that trajectory to what it's going to look like in the future. So that is part of what we do as a community together, right? That next step in deciding it. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you for all the good work. I think we are looking forward to December and celebrating what's been achieved. Any questions before we go on? And Councilmember DeCarli.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I think that health and well-being is something that people often overlook, especially today. So it's nice to see an active interest in it. But I do have some questions about, one of your principles, and I think it's part of your foundation, is, a plant-based diet. And here in the city of Petaluma, we're very proud of our agricultural heritage, which includes, beef and poultry, eggs, and dairy products. So how does Blue Zones feel about that? And
Thank you. I think that's a great question. It's really important to acknowledge that we emphasize a plant slant diet, not an exclusively vegetarian or vegan diet. And based off of the lifestyle practices of those observed in the original Blue Zones, all of them except one community had moderate consumption of animal-based proteins in their diet. Coming back to the roots of what Petaluma is as an agricultural community, I too come from a family of cattle ranchers and know the importance of the relationship and what it is to be in the land and the legacy of our farming community. That's why we've leaned in so strongly with our farmers market, because sometimes that's the most direct place that our community gets to interface with our local farmers. We were able to expand some of what community members could utilize their double up food bucks for, to be able to support additional ranchers and farmers, in particular purchasing eggs, where I think it's important to know that in the work that we do around health and healing, all of it is meeting the community where they're at. And this community is strong in its agricultural heritage and the way that our farmers and our farm workers come together in community. So we're not saying don't eat anything. What we're saying is, in addition to that, we know we will benefit if we can increase more fresh fruits and vegetables in our diet. We just have a deficit of that. It's not necessarily built into all the habits for people to cook as well with vegetables as they do with some of those main animal proteins like we're accustomed to here. So we want to build the community's capacity to eat a wide variety of foods. Local, farm-raised are ideal.
No, thank you. And I think it is often overlooked, vegetables and fruits, usually an afterthought for people. So it's good that you promote that too, because it's part of a healthy diet.
It is.
And then, kind of going back to your, sponsors and partners, is that the primary source of your funding?
Our funding, yes.
And is the city one of those, does the city help fund Blue Zones?
So our primary sponsor is Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation. They engaged in the initial contract for the readiness feasibility study and then engaged in contract with Blue Zones. At that time, actually all along the city has been an active partner in that. It's my understanding that the city had a financial contribution to that in our first year in alignment with our community kickoff. And that in subsequent years, our sponsorship with the city has been in collaboration and staff time and being able to learn together and build programming together. And at this time, it's my understanding there is no additional financial contribution from the city.
Okay, thank you, and thank
You're
you
welcome.
for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the great presentation.
Can I say something?
And Councilmember Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real fast, thank you for your presentation. I couldn't help but look at you and then look past you at the members of the community that are sitting behind you in their blue Youngstown shirts. They are symbols of our community that have aged and have led very full lives, or giving back to the community, are stressed in their current situation, and they have a lot of history to share. I would love to see the Blue Zone and Healthy Petaluma partner with the mobile home communities, all of them, because they have a very rich history, and we want to have a rich future for them. The other thing I wanted to mention, the other part of my discussion here I would like to bring out is our youth. I am concerned about our youth. They're not as active as many of us were in our youth. They are riding e-bikes. They're sitting in front of screens. They're doing sedentary things. Instead of getting out and breathing, they're also not eating the healthy plant-based or local food sources of meats and vegetables that they should, because they're looking at convenience packaged food. So I would like to see us maybe work on that. I know alcohol is very important, but so is vaping, and I'm seeing that as a huge problem in our youth. So those are my comments, and I would just like to see going forward into the future some improvements in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're real lucky to live in Petaluma, where we have so many different groups approaching all of our problems from all of the issues. I appreciate your collaborations with the schools and seeing what the schools are doing in their own food programs that matches up, and independently, but matches up. So much good is going on in this community because of so many nonprofits, and also the climate blueprint that we talked about earlier brings all together. And so it's like we're all pulling in the same direction, and that's when we can really achieve. So I hope you stay for a few minutes while we have public comment, see if there's anyone who wants to engage on this topic. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
You're welcome.
And we'll move into our next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is general public comment. And during general public comment, the public is invited to make comments on items of public interest that are within the City Council's subject matter jurisdiction and that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and depending on the number of persons wishing to address the council, time will be allocated in equal shares, no more than 20 minutes. If we have more than 20 who wish to speak, the additional comments will be heard after the last business item on the agenda. I'd like to pass it over to our clerk now and fill us in on the details here.
We did receive 11 public comments for general comments, and those are posted on the website. At this time, I will start a 30-second clock. And during these 30 seconds, members of the public should bring their speaker cards to my desk if they have not already done so. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
So we have 11 speaker cards tonight, and so I'm going to ask the clerk to set the timer at 2 minutes per. And we start with Tina Yonkers and move to Jorge Arango Garcia. Second.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being here, and I'm happy to be here as well. Tonight, what I wanted to bring to you was this paper that I received at my doorstep on Friday afternoon. It was hand-delivered, and of course you can't see it from here, but it's from Harmony Communities, and it's regarding Jody Johnson, a very good friend of mine and also a real leader in our community. Anyway, it was kind of interesting because I was like, well, what the heck is this whole thing about? So I got in and I started reading it, and you can see it's all highlighted. It's an investigation report, and it gets you right away because it's got these case types: state felonies, criminals. And of course, I was taken in from this, and I was shocked. I was like, what the heck is going on here? And then suddenly I came to my senses, and I was like, let's take a better look at this. And it says here that the client provided information forwarded to him by another individual who believes this information to be connected to our subject, Jody Johnson. And it's actually from Harmony and was delivered by our park manager, who apparently doesn't work for Harmony, but she brought it around individually to everyone's doorstep. Anyhow, the interesting thing about this is that this assignment was carried on by this investigation, and right away you say the assignment findings are from Franco Jody, and she lives in Winnetonka something or other, Ohio, and she's there from September 1st until current. It's September 1st, 2019 to current. That's her address. And most of these findings are regarding Jody Franco.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jorge Arango Garcia, to be followed by Bert Bota.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Jorge Arango Garcia, and I have lived at Caprivilla for 23 years now. I'm here to clarify what was inside the same packet that she received. We also received it at Capri. Every resident got it this past Friday, and as a resident, I can assure you that all the decisions regarding Caprivilla are made by the residents and for the residents. We vote on issues that when we attend meetings to stay and also to stay informed. This packet it also illustrates the true nature of what we as residents of Caprivilla have to go against. Yeah, these new owners claim they want to interact and negotiate with the residents, but all we know from them, their track record are evictions, illegal rent, space increases, reduced utilities and parking at Caprivilla, and harassment. People are constantly taking pictures of our yards for no apparent reason, and we don't know why. I believe this packet is to set aside the constant help and leadership that some people provide unconditionally. We at Caprivilla, we are extremely grateful for you, Mayor and council members, for all your time and support, but please keep in mind of how hard these last 2 years have been, not only for Caprivilla residents, but Littlewoods and Youngstown residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bert Bota should be followed by Linda Rainey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I just want to congratulate Mr. Mayor and those who participated in the Butter and Eggs race down Main Street. Thank you so much for contributing to the Blue Zone element of our community. The background: for 3 years, we senior residents of Youngstown Mobile Home Park have been fighting attempts by park ownership to raise space rents by over $1,000 per space, increases that would force many of us from our homes. With the help of this council and our community advocate, Jody Johnson, we have successfully held these increases off. Now someone operating under the name Patriot Chris has appeared in our community. We believe he was hired by the park's ownership or management to do what 3 years of pressure could not: break our community apart from the inside. The tactic: manufacture distrust, target the advocate. Patriot Chris is not raising genuine concerns. He's running a disinformation campaign with one goal: to destroy the residents' trust in Jody Johnson, the one person who has organized and led our defense for 3 years. His method is straightforward: repeat accusations loudly enough, often enough, and make them sound like reasonable questions. What he's actually doing: each line in the email is designed to hurt us, not to inform. Here's what's really happening: documented past of defrauding people. This is the main smear. It's presented as fact, but it's an allegation with no verified basis. This is how a professional agitator operates: state the accusation as though it's settled, repeat it, and let suspicion do the rest. Why is Jody soliciting to her personal account? This implies financial wrongdoing without providing a single piece of evidence. It's a question engineered to sound reasonable while planting the idea of theft in readers' minds.
Thank you. Linda Rennie, to be followed by Kay Pullen.
It smells very fishy. This is a vague insinuation. It's a classic tool of intimidation. Nothing specific is alleged. Nothing specific can be disproven. The goal is not accountability. It's to make it seem like Jody's dishonest in the eyes of us, her neighbors. Why is it so upsetting to you to ask for accountability? When we push back, he reframes our defense as proof of guilt. This is a manipulation technique. Any denial becomes evidence of wrongdoing. There's no acceptable response. That is the point. Why is this dangerous for our community? Seniors on fixed incomes have spent 3 years fighting to stay in our homes. That fight has depended on trust between neighbors, trust in Jody, who has volunteered her time and energy on our behalf without compensation. Patriot Chris is systematically attacking that trust. If he exceeds or organizing collapses, our defense weakens, and the park owners get 3 years of rent pressure could not deliver. A community too divided and demoralized to fight back. Not coincidence, it's a strategy. What are we asking of the City Council? Acknowledge publicly this kind of coordinated harassment of mobile home park residents is unacceptable. Help connect us with additional pro bono, if possible, legal resources, document, and where possible, hold accountable those behind this smear campaign. Continue the support you've already shown us. It's made a huge difference in our fight over the 3 years, and we're very grateful for that support. Help us identify whether the park's ownership has any legal exposure for what appears to be hired harassment campaign against rent-stabilized senior residents. We're seniors, we're on fixed incomes, we have nowhere else to go. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for the City of Petaluma to continue to stand with us as we fight to stay in our homes.
Thank you. Kay Pullen, to be followed by Jennifer Boyle.
Good evening. In light of the smear campaign that Harmony and Three Pillars have initiated, I feel more than outraged. Jody and I have shared a residence for 7 years, and I must say that since I spent so much time with her, I believe I'm best suited to speak about her character, given the smear campaign, obviously. I have never seen anyone work so hard. Days, nights, weekends, even holidays, Christmas even. And that's without receiving any personal benefit. We barely have time to do anything together other than mobile home work. Well, she does. I don't always do it. But I try to support her as much as I can. It amazes me that she continues to support us despite all the attacks coming from the outside as well as from a few dissatisfied residents within our parks. She continues to persevere and move forward, rarely taking time for herself. I can't say enough about her will and tireless work, and she does whatever it takes to defend our homes. We as residents of these mobile home parks under attack may not always attend city council meetings or other park events due to life's ups and downs, but we know that Jody is always there fighting for us, and we deeply appreciate her efforts. It truly appears that no good deed goes unpunished. We, the residents, stand by her. While we can move forward to achieving our goals without her, we would rather have her, obviously. She is our warrior and our shield. It must be difficult for these unscrupulous park owners and a few other hateful people to believe that someone would help just because she sees a need. She's a force to be reckoned with for good. They must be desperate to look up this dirt and try to take her down.
Thank you. Jennifer Boyle, to be followed by John Robbus.
Good evening. The last 3 days have been a real eye-opener for me and so many more in our park, and actually all the parks in Petaluma and more. But life on life's terms. The day that Patriot Chris, who's not here tonight, of course, but used to attend all the time, walked in with me all the time. I'm calling her out, and I'm furious. People say I talk loud. Well, it's just that I've been putting all my friends and neighbors in training because we're going to talk louder, clearer than we ever have before. This is my home and so many others that this, BS isn't going to continue. And I don't care who these park owners are. I don't care. We'll fight them to the very end. And you know who else will? Jody Johnson. She has absolutely nothing to feel as though she has to defend herself. Nothing. I have seen her because I'm also a friend of hers, and I'm not a pushover. I'm just a little scattered right now only because I haven't been this mad in a long time. I wish I could express everything I have to tell everybody. The day that Patriot Chris came out from underneath the rock, it's not a he. I know who it is very well, very well. Her intent was to burn this park down. Not literally, but get everybody separated and angry with each other from the inside out. So much more to say, but thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Robbus, and to be followed by Angie Cruz.
I certainly appreciate what this city has done to help us maintain the existence that we have. And I think with this episode, with this flim-flam kind of a piece of trash that they put on our steps, just shows what kind of people run these corporations that are trying to just gouge everybody they can possibly get, get the max that they can. Well, I think the result of this piece of paper coming across our tables strengthens what we feel about Jody. She's a great woman. I mean, she's like, in a way, she's like a guardian angel, the way she's taken care. It's moved to take actions that none of us would have probably had the capacity to do. And she just figured out how to do it. So I just say thank you once again for the support that you've given to us. It really means a lot.
Thank you. Angie Cruz, to be followed by Chantel Rogers.
I don't think this is very clear, but this is the person that came to Littlewoods in case this face looks familiar. I'm happy to email it over too. But everyone in Petaluma should be for accountability. But unfortunately, the park owners, Harmony, Three Pillars, and their allies demonstrate hypocrisy through the defamation packets. I speak today to make it evident to speculators that the bad actors in our fight are Harmony, Three Pillars, and all of their allies. We, the residents at Petaluma Mobile Home Parks United, trust and are grateful for the advocacy and commitment of Jody Johnson that helps strengthen the well-being of our communities. While we may not all be up front and on a mic, we all fight towards justice against the injustices thrown at us constantly by these investment groups who are terrorizing the most vulnerable. What some may see as some people speaking for all, we see as the strengths of all our members to move our mission forward. We can hope people can listen, but listening is a choice. Every step of the way in this fight, the fight to stay peacefully housed has been through democratic processes, and we are unanimously in agreement on how we want to take action. What Harmony and Three Pillars want is for people to be ill-informed and to trust their self-interested tactics. It will not work. We ask for continued support of the rest of our community because we too are your neighbors. Defamation and fabrication are crimes, and unfortunately, they're not the only crimes these investment companies and their allies have committed and will continue to commit. They continue to underestimate us, and we cannot be bought or intimidated, and they cannot take that. We know who supports us and who fights for us. These companies can't tell us otherwise. These investment groups and their allies are and will try anything, legal or not, to get what they want. But they have not been successful, so they will try to find any loop or angle to bury us to silence and compliance. But we will stay resilient together.
Thank you. Chantel Rogers, to be followed by Sierra Morant.
Good evening. Tonight I wanted to ask you if you might consider adding a transcript of these meetings to the videos that show up on archived city council meetings. I don't know if you've ever gone back through videos trying to find something somebody said at an old meeting, or even which meeting it was at, but it takes a lot of time. You scroll through. And it would be so much easier if we just had the transcript. We're being transcribed. My words are being printed up there right now. So I would hope that it wouldn't be too difficult to add that through, so that when we go to look for something in archived meetings, we have that all printed out, and scanning might be a lot easier for us to find it, in addition to hearing impaired community members who might want to look something up. And so I just wanted to put that ask out tonight to see if it's something that might be feasible that you might consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Sierra Morant, to be followed by Tim Porteous.
All right. Hello. You've all received my written comments and know my case, so I'll be brief. I'm here in person to make sure you follow up on your ongoing responsibility for my case, public safety, and animal control. MBAS may have failed me, but the city fell short too. Moving forward, I expect Marin Humane to be a better partner, but it's important to create a mechanism such as an ombudsman to address these issues. This will ensure that others don't have to go through what I have. Please add a follow-up to the state of animal control to the agenda for the May 4th meeting so that we can address it in the detail it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Porteous.
Hello again. This is my angry coat. I'm very angry. They're pulling her out, focusing on her, and that really angers me a lot. There's a lot of us. We went around last night, there was 3 of us, to talk to people and get signatures, of which you have. Of the people that I spoke to, they were vehemently just crazy. They're bullies. They're bullying us. Is there anything that can be done to slow or stop? Because they're getting away with really torturous methods and attacks on purpose with a determination to stop people, specific people. Jody has been a major pain in their side, a wonderful pain, and I love it. It's great. Always I will support her. Always I have. I listen to her always. And anybody that has been going to our meetings, they know what the financials are because Jody tells them. All the meetings, you can find the information. It's there. So other things that you're being told, not true. And this Chris fellow or whatever he is, Jim Bob, they have meaningless, they're just useless words that they're throwing like eggs and hoping something will stick. But I'll tell you, they're not sticking on us about Jody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate all the comments from all the public. And that closes public comment for the evening, general public comment. Brings us up to our council members. And while we all do quite a few things, I'm going to ask the council members to kind of try and keep it quick tonight as we're to move right through things. I'd like to lead off with Council Member Shribs.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so several visits to several places and people. At the North Bay Watershed Association had their biennial conference, an all-day conference, very high level. Lots of folks, the VIPs of the industry sort of came in. And what is the most interesting that I learned is that other counties are now using AI for flood management and fire management. And that that's being proposed is that there's actually going to, they're actually in development. There's a sea of drones that would carry water to fires, and also for the management of flooding to actually have all the gauges and actually manage where the water is going. So anyway, so that was interesting technology from that meeting. Otherwise, a lot of folks are going after really important fresh water and a treatment plant and sea level rise. Everyone is working together. Everyone's doing this at the same time all over the entire Bay Area. So all good news of the cooperation that's happening, also including groundwater. At the museum, I was able to go to the opening of the Petaluma Wetlands portion. That there's a big exhibit downstairs. I've got a couple items in there, as does PWA and a few others. Alan Butler put a large effort in. So, yep, go visit that. It's going to be there till June. I went to the Petaluma High School. There's a politics class, or policies and the like, and the students had to present, or did present their projects. So all the students are required to actually have a project community effort of what they did. So I was able to interview several of the students, provide feedback to them and help them out, as well as listen to what they did. They did phenomenal. So I've got hope in our future now, listening to all these kids. And every one of them was as excited that they did the community service and really got something out of it. So it was really nice. There was a webinar on the Spartina project. That's the invasive Spartina, which is a grass that invades our wetlands and all over the bay. And that's still ongoing right now. And mostly Petaluma River is actually one of the better locations that it's been removed from. But we still have a little bit in the north end, the upper river area. And so I did offer help, since I have contacts in some of the nonprofits here that work on the river, that should they need some help, we can work on that. Then on the, I did visit one of our property managers, did ask me to come out and visit and show me a demonstration of, there was a case, he said very few cases, 98% of the tenants are really good about dealing with issues and working with the landlords and so forth. But there was this one case that was shown where the landlord is losing over $60,000 right now because of a situation that is, something's not right with it. So anyway, whether it was the city or the state or the county, but anyway, through the legal, something to be thinking about. We need to kind of review and work and maybe figure out what went wrong there. And that's one of the things we may work on, because those are the type of cases that ruin the system. Another thing, I did talk to Damon Conley at the parade, Butter and Eggs, which I think we all participated in. And he's saying right now that e-bike rules are being worked on right now at the state level and are in various committees and going through the process. So over the next 2 months, we have the chance to put our input in. So whether or not we want to have our committee, our bike and ped committee, or this group, our council and staff work together somehow. But if we want to have an input, now's the time to put the input into the state to make those rules, to make sure that we get what we want. And hopefully, if we want more than what the state is, also prepare for the additional things, because lots of cities, I've been tracking what's going on all around the world, and there are lots of cities all around the world dealing with this, creating their own rules and regulations. It'd be nice if the state sets a level and then we follow through and add on whatever we feel necessary for our community to save our kids from getting injured and the adults and solve some of the problems that we have here. Because we do want to move e-bike safety and use along. Anyway, those are my things for this last couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Quint.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'll forego my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the past 2 weeks, we've been full of community spirit, from moving sheep down D Street from the fairgrounds and the History Week kickoff at the museum to the Sonoma County Mayor and Council Members dinner that most of us attended. And I also attended the Petaluma High Government Class Projects Day and the Fire Department Badge Pinning Staff Recognition event that we held at the Lucchese. Petaluma wrapped it all up with a fantastic 44th annual Butter and Eggs Day Parade. A big thank you to everyone who sponsored, participated in, attended, and volunteered to make Saturday such a special day, and a special appreciation to our Petaluma police officers for helping ensure that our beloved tradition celebrating local agriculture was safe and fun family event. Next up, Petaluma's annual Spring Antique Fair, Sunday, April 26th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. downtown. After exploring the antique fair, take some time to enjoy our beautiful downtown shops and restaurants. On the public comments, transcripts, I think we do have the transcripts on the meetings on the website, because I know I've had to go and look things up that people said I said, and I had to go back and say, no, you didn't hear it correctly. I said it this way. So, but city staff is going to have to confirm that. Also, to Mr. Danley, maybe we can have a council update on dog bite protocol and what we're doing in the future and what we're going to do to help the public commenters' situation get finalized and closed. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. And bring it around to Councilmember Cater Thompson.
Thank you. I too would like an update on dog bites. I've had a lot of conversations with Sierra. She's very reasonable and great to talk with, and I would like to see where we're going to go with this, because I'd like some resolution. This last week I went to Sacramento and I was at an HCD meeting hearing, which was the Housing Community Development, and we talked about the increased fees for mobile home parks, and they heard a lot. And these meetings are very long, and you know, when you're third on the agenda and then you have to hear two others, you really learn about housing and what's going on within the state. So it's real valuable to listen to, but I thought it was really successful, and I do understand that costs are rising for everybody, but we basically asked them we posed it, but to go back and look and see what else could be done, because just explaining how the fees always trickle down to the mobile home park residents, and it was specifically on mobile home parks. And I really thanked Jody Johnston, and your name is just not there right now in the red jacket, Tim. Yes, and others came, and it was just really nice being there together. But I also met people from like Oakland Housing, and so you get a real understanding of how precarious it is right now with the federal administration and what's going to be happening with funding, and that goes back to the blue zones also talking about those cuts that are going to be happening. And Butter and Eggs Day was a lot of fun, but I do want to say something about the letter that everybody received for Jody. I mean, what we did, we strengthened the mobile home park ordinance and strengthened it more than one time. The overlay for senior parks was really important, and to do this type of It was just a political move is what it was. And it's really to pit people against each other. And it's not going to work. And so I hope that they know that. But when we really want to talk about history, I also have letters that I could send to Harmony on people that are owners of Harmony, legal issues. But we're not doing that. But they're doing it. And so, but you can get online and ask me a name, and I'll be happy to let you look it up online anytime. And I just think it's despicable what they're doing. And I just want to thank everybody that came tonight, and I want to thank Jody for all the work that she has done. She had a large, she had a big learning curve there, and boy, she's really sharp. And a lot of what happened with losing cases, which they have lost every case, would not have happened without the help of our city, all the attorneys, the pro bono attorneys, and everybody that's participated. And so to go after senior citizens in this way, as a politician, I expect it because I know that happens. I can look in the room and see people that have done it to me. But I do not expect people to attack senior citizens in this community in this way. It is just disgusting. And I stand with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember DeCarli.
Good evening. Last week at Parks and Rec, we received a presentation from the Sunrise Rotary Club, and they, I found out, since I think 2018, have been hoping to put bocce ball courts out at McNear Park. And so that's kind of drumming up again, and they're excited to do it. So they gave us a presentation of what they intend to do, and I'm not sure where that's going to go and how fast it's going to go now, but they are trying to do it and working with the city on it. So that'll be a neat thing for the district and anybody that likes bocce. Butter and eggs, I think probably everybody here went. It's a great turnout this year, and I don't know the statistics yet, but I think it may have been one of the longer butter and eggs parades. Must have been close to 2.5 hours before it was actually done, and then there were lots of gaps in between, so I think there was a lot of false endings, so it just kept going and going and going. But and it was great to see the community turn out for that, and one in particular is a nonprofit, Communities for Food and Family Farms, that put on a huge agriculture display downtown with calves, rabbits, goats, lambs, chickens, baby chicks hatching, a couple other animals, and got a lot of the community involved. Thousands of people came through, and they were serving ice cream at the end of it. So that was really great to see. Last week, out in Point Reyes, there was a giant community kind of town hall where it was all about what happened out in Point Reyes with the farms out there, the farms that were kicked off their land. And so you had both sides of it there talking about, what was going on, what had happened. And it was really cool to see because there was such a tremendous amount of support for the farms and for that community. And, everybody that was affected by it. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think everybody I hope you all had a wonderful butter and egg parade. I know I got involved with the opening ceremonies and the good egg, and it's really fun to have the Grand Marshal be an international dignitary. And when she arrives, we get to meet the Vice Consul of India, Japan, Vietnam. There's just a whole litany of what she's putting Petaluma on the map internationally with her efforts to peace in the world. The cow chip contest, I'm only bringing this up because our police chief won first, our fire chief won second, and in a throw-off with a beauty queen, I took third and got this wonderful prize. A council member wouldn't let me finish my remarks without noting that. One thing I did want to say here is SMART served us so well. They had their largest Saturday ever. They were running, I'm not sure, do you have the exact details? Yeah. We were chatting with the general manager of SMART, but they were running three car trains all day, and the platforms were full all day, so we wouldn't have been able to do things without them. I spoke at the Transhumanist Festival, the Sheep Running Festival, which was kind of a fun thing to have in town. I got to speak at the newest public art that we've got installed now in town, and that was a really fun event. I attended a flood zone meeting on that board, and we're working on helping reduce the flood risk within the city. And we also attended, I attended with Councilmember Kennedy Thompson, a transit conference put on by Santa Rosa JC students. And here we are at a time where we're worried about cutting our transit funding and budget, and the JC students are noting the need for it and the demand for it. So interesting that the youth are pushing for that element. I also participated in a housing forum hosted by our two congressmen, Jared Huffman and Mike Thompson. They recognize the housing need that we recognize, and they've got a lot more money to bring to the party than we have. So I'm anxious to see what their work is. Did attend the award ceremony for the firefighters, also attended an award ceremony for the police dispatchers here this past week, and I was invited to join Ag Days at Dunham School. And Dunham School is out of the incorporated area, and Blue Zones was represented there. And I said to the principal, well, why are you inviting city officials out to the Ag area? And she said, of the 200 students, only 50 are rural students. 150 children from Petaluma transfer into that school because it has such a focus on ag. So really, it's Petaluma kids wanting to retain that connection to agriculture. And if you've been to an ag day or the fair or what was going on downtown this weekend, you really appreciate that people are preserving that heritage and having good local organic sources. We had another Eagle Scout in town, which is one of the fun things the mayor gets to do is confer one of our proclamations to them. And spoke to the leadership class of the Chamber of Commerce. That's in case a plane takes all of us out, there'll be somebody in town who knows how the city runs and can run for council. But it's a really wonderful program. I hope you all sign up to do that. And that's me for this past week. And of course, we got pins for the butter and eggs. We are promoting hard, even in arrears. This is a collaboration with merchants. So when we talk about economic development, it's us being out there with the merchants and the merchants doing their work to make Petaluma a better place too.
So you can get a discount during the pin.
Okay, so and the pin is worth a discount of many of our businesses in town. And with that, I'll pass to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and community. Two quick highlights for celebrating Earth Day. Earth Day planning at City Hall. Join us this Wednesday, April 22nd. Drop in any time between 10:30 and 3:30 for Community Planning Day with daily acts to complete our new low-water habitat-friendly landscape out here in front. All are welcome and lunch is provided, so don't miss that. And then save the date on Sunday, May 3rd from noon to 4 at the Community Center for Future Fest, our annual climate festival with Cool Petaluma, featuring student projects, local organizations, and Spanish language accessibility and presentations by Cafe Puente. And there's more information on our Climate Ready website at cityofpetaluma.org/climate ready. Also, this week at the Fairgrounds is hosting a annual 4-H and FFA Sonoma County Youth Livestock Judging Contest on Saturday, April 25th. This event includes team and individual competitions for beef, sheep, swine, and goats. And then Sunday, the public is invited to join a Mexican heritage event with a rodeo and live music and entertainment. All that information and more is on PetalumaFairgrounds.com. It's a new website, PetalumaFairgrounds.com. It lists all the different events that we are holding at the fairgrounds as well as the fair itself. And we will look into the transcript, what we can do, what we can provide, and make sure it's accurate. And Ms. Morantz, I know, there you are. We'll circle back with you, for sure. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor? I have that number.
Thank you very much. Yes?
I have that number. SMART for Saturday, the preliminary report is 7,230 people. Wow. That's a lot of people. So
that's fabulous.
That is really great.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to our consent calendar for the evening. And at this point, I look up and down the dais and see if any council member wishes to remove an item. Seeing none that need to be removed, I'll ask Councilmember Cater Thompson.
I will recuse with item number 4.
So we will break the voting into two, but we will continue the public comment and also the council deliberations together. And I think I'd like to move.
Questions.
Okay, so I'd like to go to public comment first on this tonight. I think we'll find out if that accelerates the evening. And so on public comment on the consent calendar, I'm asking our clerk if we'll read the messaging and move that direction.
We did not receive any comments ahead of the meeting, but we do have one card. If anyone else would like to submit a speaker card on consent calendar items, now is the moment.
Not seeing anybody moving forward, we will now open this. And we have Steve Harris to speak on the consent calendar items. Welcome, Steve.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking on item number 6. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Steve Harris. I'm with the North Coast Carpenters Union. I'm here to bring awareness about the Danco communities. They have committed multiple labor violations, from wage theft violations to delinquent payroll. On one project, they owed 14 workers back pay. On another project, the OSHA, they had 4 violations. You know, these workers are being taken advantage of. That's one of our things, is working with these non-union subcontractors, talking to them, getting information. In one case, one of the workers brought up a question that his payroll. His punishment was he got fired. So that it's a big issue in the construction. Everybody sees a construction fence up there and thinks, oh yeah, there's construction going on, but really behind those fences, there's a lot going on that nobody knows about. And one of the cases, his contractor worked like 4 projects up here in Sonoma County, and actually the General Bonta filed 31 criminal charges on the contractor, ranging from grand theft, payroll tax evasion, prevailing wage theft, and filed false documents with the state of California, or the state. That makes this project a crime scene, and I really wouldn't like to see a crime scene come to your neighborhood. So that's my stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was our only speaker, so that'll close public comment on the consent calendar tonight. Bring it back up to the dais. And Vice Mayor, you have questions?
I do. I have questions on item 3, but going to item 6, what the speaker just brought up, Eric, is there anything that you can speak to? You know, since this item we're voting on is helping this developer.
So that's new information for me. The city is a financial supporter of the housing development, as is the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state. SMART is part of the overall project. It's private construction, but it's prevailing wages apply. We know that. So the city's an interested party. If there are complaints about compliance with the prevailing wage laws, we can bring them to Department of Industrial Relations attention, and so can others who are aware of those concerns. I've heard of nothing yet directly, so if we have information about worksite concerns or whatever, we're happy to receive those. But this is the first I've heard of any potential concerns. It was hard for me to tell specifically what entities that might relate to. If the Attorney General brought actions like that against a contractor, I would think they might include debarment, and they might not be eligible. But again, I don't know to what contractors or subcontractors the speaker was addressing. So if they have that information, we'd be happy to receive that and let the council know what we see.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And then are there any staff that could speak to item 3?
Good evening, Councilmember. I'm here on Zoom and able to answer any questions.
Hi, Bjorn.
And this is Bjorn Griefenberg.
Sorry. Thanks.
So what does designating a street as a safety corridor really, what does that really mean or do for the street?
So in the last couple of years, the state has adopted some new legislation around how speed limits are set, and they have provided agencies with greater flexibility on a limited number of streets. Typically what they're looking for, or what they're looking for cities to do is identify up to 20% of their street networks that they would consider to be safety corridors, either due to high collision rates and collision severity, or due to kind of surrounding land use characteristics. So on corridors that may generate a higher volume of bicycle and pedestrian activity, for example. So as a city, we have not actually undertaken that exercise yet. Our goal was to bring our safety corridors to council by the end of the year on city streets. However, this item pertains to the Caltrans owned section of Lakeville Highway. And so there's been some state legislation that provides similar guidance to Caltrans on their roadways. And we've had conversations with Caltrans around what it would take to designate Lakeville Highway as a safety corridor, to provide that greater degree of flexibility when they are establishing enforceable speed limits out there. And they asked us to bring this item to council and then go back to them basically with an approved resolution in order to, and then they would consider basically that designation once they have a resolution from our council.
Okay, but I'm still not quite sure what that exactly means for the city, or, why we need to do that and what we would be getting out of it in the end.
So at the end of the day, the speed limits that Caltrans sets on Lakeville Highway are completely up to them. Obviously, there are procedures around how speed limits are set. They are grounded in data that's collected on the corridor that obviously gives them a good idea of how people are currently driving it. And then they also, there's guidance beyond just how people are driving it. There's an ability to kind of to round down. It's a pretty nuanced process where basically they look at the 85th percentile of speeds, and then they can round down or round up 5 miles an hour to basically, or to the nearest 5 mile an hour interval to determine the enforceable speed limit based on their judgment, what they think is appropriate. And so by us asking them to designate Lakeville a safety corridor, it would allow them a greater degree of flexibility where they could actually round down an additional 5 miles an hour beyond what they can currently do out there. At the end of the day, though, it really is ultimately up to them where they set the speed limits.
Is Caltrans looking to the city to make a recommendation for that, or why wouldn't they just do it on their own?
This was the guidance that they provided us. I had a similar question, and ultimately this is, I guess, sort of the internal procedure that they've established, is asking cities to bring forward these requests where Caltrans operates a state highway within city limits.
In the staff report, it talks a lot about adding this being a way to add bike lanes to Lakeville, and it seems that, Lakeville is a highway. It's a trucking route. It has a tremendous amount of traffic, and I think that for this city to encourage bike lanes along such a busy and what is a dangerous road, kind of regardless of the speed limit, I think I don't know. I wonder if we should be doing that. Encouraging people, children, to be riding right next to vehicles on something that's so dangerous. So I think that we should be using calmer streets to encourage people to ride on, to get to different trails and access points where they can ride in, non-trafficked areas. So I don't know that we should be encouraging that along Lakeville. It's literally a highway. And I'm not sure what the effectiveness of reducing the speed limit would be, because in the report, 60% of the accidents on there were from excessive speed, so that's ignoring the posted speed limit. And then at the same time, a portion of that was right-of-way issues. So to designate it a safety corridor and lower the speed limit 5 miles an hour, I'm not sure how that would significantly change things when 60% of the accidents, happen for other reasons, essentially. So can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I know bike lane. I'll kind of go back to your point about bike lanes on Lakeville. I know that's not what's being asked of council tonight, and ultimately, again, it's not our call because it's not our roadway. I will say Caltrans has very similar goals, I think, to the city as far as improving mobility options, trying to make their state highways, especially in more urban or suburban environments, and even rural environments where they go through smaller towns, making them safer for people walking and biking. They do have a project coming up. They will be paving Lakeville Highway in 2028. They have shared preliminary plans for that project with us. They are showing Class 4 protected bike lanes as part of that project, which would be accomplished by basically narrowing the vehicle lane slightly. They'll still be plenty wide to accommodate all of the freight traffic out there. But they have identified that opportunity through their upcoming paving project, and that is consistent with the direction that they are moving in for state highways in these types of settings. Obviously, you're not going to see bike lanes on US 101, but you would, I think, you will start to see more complete streets design elements on Caltrans right-of-way in settings like this one. I'll also note, just with a corridor like Lakeville, yes, it is a state highway. It is moving a lot of people, and we do see a lot of freight activity out there. But at the end of the day, it is sort of this hybrid between a state highway and a street that does serve some local traffic. There are a lot of people who will need to start or end their trip on Lakeville, right? And so they would, even if you have a parallel bikeway available on a lower stress street or on a parallel trail, at some point in someone's trip, they may need to be on Lakeville Highway to get to a business or a place of employment.
Bjorn, at this point, I'd like to invite our police chief, who has stepped up to the podium, to weigh in.
Yeah, thank you, Bjorn, for the opportunity. I heard the question earlier about whether Caltrans specifically asked us for a recommendation to lower that speed limit. And I just wanted to just add, through those continued conversations, and Bjorn's been a participant in many of those as well as my staff, consistently one of the questions has asked of city staff from Caltrans has been, would we like the speed limits to be reduced in those areas, and what measures would be helpful? And we do see speed, and especially excessive speeds, consistently being one of the primary collision factors through the entire Lakeville Highway corridor, from the city jurisdiction through the state highway corridor. And so we constantly have been advocating for years and continue to advocate for those measures, for any speed reduction and speed limits to be reduced along the entire roadways. So we're constantly advocating for that. As Bjorn mentioned, one of the ways to accomplish that is through a calculation. The other way to accomplish that is through this designation. So this would allow us to do it without that calculation, which is the most advantageous way for us to do it. And then most importantly, I think they're looking to us because in the city's jurisdiction areas, my team, myself, are specifically responsible for doing the enforcement action over enforcing those speed limits. So we wouldn't have to do the calculation. It doesn't require some of the speed surveying to designate that speed, and it makes it much more cleaner for us to do the enforceable speed limit enforcement and establishing that speed limit at that lower speed designation. So I just wanted to offer that for some of that context to support.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other fellow?
I do. Let me think here.
All right, you want to take the second?
So,
Well,
someone else have a question on it?
Everybody.
Okay.
So I'll come back over here. Did Councilmember Now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before Councilmember Quinn wants to jump in here, Bijan, can you remind the community and the council about the open house that we held recently at Miwok School regarding Lakeville and all the community members and their input, and staff gave their input, and it echoes a lot of what Police Chief Bray Miller said about speed collision factors out there. And we do have bike riders that do have to cross Lakeville to get to Schollenberger, and that, Lakeville goes right through District 3. So it's a big concern of my district and the neighboring community. So can you work on explaining real short Cliff Notes of what we did at that workshop?
Yeah, thank you. So we are partnering right now with Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities on a grant-funded corridor study of both Lakeville Street on the city side, which is from Petaluma Boulevard North over to US 101, as well as the Caltrans portion southeast of 101 out to city limits. And through that, we are developing near to long-term recommendations on different safety and congestion relief improvements for the entire corridor. So examples of near-term improvements would be, simple things that can be accomplished through an upcoming paving project like we have with the Caltrans project I noted, or other kind of minor striping signage type improvements. Long-term improvements would be things that we haven't necessarily identified funding for, but could include, installations of roundabouts at intersections, or more robust signal improvements, more robust streetscape improvements, or reconfiguration. Right now, we are at the kind of the conceptual design level. We've got a couple different ideas for people to give feedback on, and that's all available on the city webpage. We've actually got some surveys that are we just wrapped. Actually, I think we may have just wrapped up the Lakeville surveys. But we'll have more on that, and we're happy to come back to council further along in the study. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I do think the workshop was fabulous. It was well attended, and I think it proved that this council, this city, stands for safety, improved safety. So thanks for hosting that and having Caltrans and everybody in the room. I know that when I took my first police ride along, the officer said, "Let's go out to Lakeville because that's the easiest place I can offer you to show you how to get speeding tickets." And it was a rich environment for that ticketing. I note that the lane narrowing is a acknowledged traffic effort to reduce speeding. So all these are good steps in this effort. And I note that people not only have that need for improved crossing, but they have the improved need for cycling along the shoulder, even though what we're trying to do is reduce speed and vehicle accidents. This provides an opportunity for that shoulder improvement where it's separated, and that's kind of, that's the way to get safety. Councilmember Quint?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point real quick that we're not asking, what we're being asked here is not to put bike lanes on Lakeville. As what was just talked about, there's a corridor study going on where Caltrans is taking public input and baking that into their design plans. From someone with real lived experience, I happen to live near Lakeville, and my son went to school. There are 2 schools in the business park, River Montessori, and the other school escapes me at the moment. But that, in addition to going to Schollenberger, Families trying to cross Lakeville on anything other than a car is a nightmare. And putting speed limits on it is not a bad thing.
Thank you. Councilmember Shribs.
I cross Lakeville bike. I go to Schellenberger Park very often with my bike and trailer and gear. I also go to Ellis Creek. I also go to Kaiser, and just be able to get across and get onto Lakeville through that section is really important to me, I know, and to others. I've even taken my bike with a trailer with my kayak all the way down to mid-river to where the docks are down there. And it would be really nice if I could actually do that much more safely now. So I'm all in favor of Caltrans making Lakeville safer in any which way they possibly can.
Thank you. So that is both our input and our questioning on it. I think that's the deliberative stage of this conversation. And so do you wish to add more on the deliberative effort?
Well, I'd just like to address some of it, in conversation here. And so, while tonight we might not
we put things on the consent calendar because of the modest nature of them so that we can achieve the bigger items later in the agenda. And I just want to note that we are moving to a Zoom input here in the next 2 months, and that public participation will add to our evening's workload. We have to find ways to be efficient, and so I'm kind of leaning on you to maybe make the consent calendar part the more direct question and more specific, succinct.
And you can pull it and vote against it.
And thank you. Right, but all these items, whether they're consent or public hearing, they're all important. And I think if any of them warrant discussion, they should get it. So, I would like to pull it just because I don't.
So we have a council member asking to pull the item. Let's have the item pulled, and we'll vote on that as a separate issue. And we already have item 4 as a separate issue.
Yes, but I would like to give my reasoning behind it.
Take 1 minute to do that.
Thank you. So, it might not be adding bike lanes tonight, but it's a step towards that. And again, I think that's a great safety concern, and I believe that that's not something that the city should be encouraging, to have children, people, anybody, that close to freight traffic or any traffic going that fast. And putting bike lanes in areas where it was brought up before, around 40 miles an hour, it's significantly much more fatal if there's an accident. And at the same time, I don't think we should be reducing lanes on what is a highway or a major street, and because that's D Street all over again, and people don't like that. So that's why I don't think I can support encouraging this down the road. Though tonight we're not making any recommendations other than to make it a safety corridor.
Okay. Councilor.
I'm going to just make one quick comment. We've heard these comments before. A council member doesn't support bike lanes, and that's pretty clear. But when I look at safety, people are complaining about Rainier and everything that's happening here. What I tell people is I personally don't want to ride on McDowell. And so now we have an actual route to 3 different schools by what's happening on Rainier and down Maria Drive. So we're always looking at safety, because if you get hit by a car at 40 miles an hour, you'll be killed. And Lakeville is part of our system, and it seems as though our entire system, we're trying to make it safer, whether it's D Street, Rainier, or any other street. It's to make it safer for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, that said, I do actually support bike lanes, but on calmer, safer streets, and not busy ones where there's
good clarification.
High fatality rates.
And I might add that on Lakeville, a lot of Lakeville, there is existing bike lanes. So it's not that we're adding bike lanes in all locations, perhaps some, but we're adding protection to make the safety of the existing where they exist. And now, looking to get to conclusion on some of this, we have 3 voting opportunities here. Who wants to make the first motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion 1 through 2, or 1 and 2, and 5 and 6.
We have a motion for 1, 2, 5, and 6 from now. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second from Shribs. May we have our roll call vote, please?
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarly?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now we're looking for the next motion, which is,
I'll make a motion for item number 3 on the consent calendar.
and we're looking for a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Now and a second by Cater Thompson for item 3.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
No.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries with 1 no.
Thank you very much. Now the item that Councilmember Cater Thompson has elected to recuse from.
I'll
Item-
recuse because I live close by.
That's item 4. We'd like a motion for 4.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion for number 4 of the consent calendar.
Thank
Second.
you. We have a motion from Now and a second from Shribs for item 4.
Cater Thompson recused. DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously with a recusal.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And now we'll move to item 7. And item 7 is a public hearing regarding compliance with Assembly Bill 2561, reporting on vacancy rate and recruitment and retention efforts. And to help us with this, we have Linda Lee, our Deputy City Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the honorable council members. It is my pleasure to present the annual Assembly Bill 2561, which requires public agencies to report to their governing bodies on vacancies, as well as recruitment and retention efforts. As of April 1, 2026, the city's overall vacancy is 7.68%. There are currently candidates at various stages in the pre-employment process, and we anticipate the vacancy rate will decrease to 5.08% by the end of May or early June. This reflects the city's continued commitment to a comprehensive workforce strategy grounded in effective recruitment, retention, and long-term organizational stability. As outlined in the staff report, Human Resources has implemented a range of coordinated workforce management efforts contributing to this outcome, including workforce planning, talent management, and learning and development. That concludes my remark. I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Again, I think we'll go to public comment on this first and then bring back questions and comments from council. Please read the messaging.
We did not receive any requests to speak, and we didn't receive any comments ahead of the meeting.
8 o'clock.
This is the moment if anyone would like to speak.
And not seeing anybody move towards the dais, so I'd like to close public comment period, bring it back up to council for any comment or council might have. Any comment on this item? No, and with that, I'll be looking for a motion.
Okay, I'd like to move item number 7.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Shribs with a second by Cater Thompson. May we have a roll call vote?
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for being here with us this evening. And we move to item 8, which is a resolution recommending an appointment to the Mayor's and Council Members Association to fill a vacancy on the Airport Land Use Commission. And that's, I believe, our Caitlin Corley, the city clerk, to present.
Yes, this will be another quick one. The Mayors and Council Members Association of Sonoma County fills various vacancies on local or regional boards when the terms expire. And so we do currently have one vacancy on the Airport Land Use Commission. It's a 4-year term beginning in May. And tonight we're asking council to recommend an appointment for this vacancy, which Mayor McDonald or his designee will vote on at an upcoming May Mayor and Council Members meeting. I think this will be a very quick discussion. There was only one letter of interest for this seat, which was Ariel Kelly from Healdsburg. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you. And let's open it to public comment.
We did not receive any comments ahead of the meeting, and I have not received any cards, but this is the moment.
Not seeing anyone rushing forward, we'll close public comments on this and bring it back to the council.
I'm happy to make that motion supporting Ariel Kelly.
Thank you.
I will second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Cater Thompson, a second by Shribs. Roll call vote.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brings us to our item 9, which is an introduction, first reading of an ordinance to authorize the utility easement to Pacific Gas and Electric for electric infrastructure improvements associated with the Fire Station Number 1 project. And to help us with this, we have Paige Bullock, our project manager. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Paige Bullock. I'm a project manager in the Public Works Department. I'm here to introduce the first reading of an ordinance authorizing a utility easement for Pacific Gas and Electric Company, PG&E, for the Fire Station 1 project. So the easement is located on city-owned property at Fire Station 1 at 198 D Street. The easement will accommodate a new underground transformer vault and associated electrical infrastructure. So this improvement is needed or is necessary to provide sufficient electrical capacity as the city converts the station into its first all-electric facility. The easement area is approximately 355 square feet and was carefully sited in close coordination with the fire department to minimize any operational impacts. While it is located near an apparatus bay, that bay is designated for reserve vehicles rather than primary emergency response. Staff work closely with fire to ensure that emergency response functionality is not affected both under normal operations and in scenarios where reserve apparatus may be in use. In terms of capacity, the upgraded service will provide approximately 800 amps total with about 120 amps of additional capacity beyond the building's full connected load. Because actual demand is typically lower than connected load, this leaves additional available capacity for future needs, including accommodating at least 3 level 2 EV chargers. As with all PG&E easements, this allows them access for maintenance and emergency repairs, as well as standard restrictions within the easement area. Staff have worked to ensure these rights are appropriately limited and do not interfere with the long-term use of the site. This is a no-cost easement, and it is a necessary step to keep the Fire Station 1 project on schedule. So granting this easement allows PG&E to install, operate, and maintain the infrastructure needed not only to support current building operations, but also future electrification needs of Fire Station 1. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks. Great presentation. Let's go to the public comment on this.
We did not receive any comments ahead of the meeting, and I have not received any cards, but now is the moment.
Seeing no one rise for public comment on this item, we'll close public comment, bring it back for questions and or comments from council.
I'm happy to move this.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Cater Thompson, second from Now, and question from Shribs.
Yes, just checking on the electrical capacity, having just done that over for my ADU and house, increasing adequately. Very difficult to get it to the adequate level and extra. What's the difference between just meeting the current needs of an all-electric facility, which is fantastic, to where we might end up later on if we happen to have an electric fire engine eventually, 20 years from now, or whatever it takes. And the other part of that is, are we also hopefully being able to hook up? There's some parking spaces right outside of the fire station. I think I was on First Street. And there's that are designated for the fire department, basically for use. And I'm hoping each one of those are going to have an electrical charging station on them. Is that going to be included in this package? And then how much more capacity will we have to actually get to will we ever be able to have a fire engine electrical down the road here?
That's a great question. Thank you. So currently in this project, we don't have any, parking in that front section where the police or the fire chief and the fire reserved parking. That is not a part of this project to add the EV charging there, but the 800 amps is honestly beyond, it's at the right amount of capacity to be able to serve electric engines in the future. So about 120 amps is generally your residential house, and 200 to 400 I think is like a small commercial building, and 800 amps will support the 24/7 use of the fire station and potential electrification needs like electric engines. So,
right, because I see a future for a combination of first responding drones, also first responding mini ambulances and paramedics who can get there on very small vehicles, on sidewalks and indoors also with all their equipment. Whether it be like upgraded e-bikes all the way up to small drones. So I'm looking for that capacity and make sure that we have enough space and station.
And I appreciate that. And we have heard that vision of the future. And again, I think it would only be fair for me to note that I am trying to accelerate these because in a month or two, we're going to be pressed for time. And and point taken. Thank you very much. My question. First presentation to council?
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you very much for being here. We're a fun bunch. And with that, I'd like to, we have a motion and a second on the table, so a roll call vote, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties. I'll do it old school. Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarly?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. That moves us to our item 10, which is a resolution to add new fees to the Petaluma Master Fee Schedule associated with implementing the new tree preservation ordinance. And to help us out with that, we have Heather Hines, our Special Projects Manager, and Brian O., our Community Development Director. Take it away. As soon as we plug in and fire up, and et cetera.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm back for another meeting to talk about trees. So we're on a little bit of a tree roll. And what better evening to do this than when we also recognized Arbor Day. So tonight we are, the item before you is adoption of new fees and some modification of existing fees for implementation of the recently adopted tree preservation ordinance. So a quick background, on April 6th, this council adopted an ordinance updating our tree preservation ordinance, which is chapter 17 of the implementing zoning ordinance, as well as some modifications to the municipal code. So this new TPO, tree preservation ordinance, creates some new regulatory framework for processing applications for the removal of trees and requirements for tree replacements. And this is all in an effort to maintain and increase the city's tree canopy. So during adoption hearings, there was a recognition of the need for associated fees to implement the TPO. Additionally, there was mention and feedback to keep fees low and minimize impact to homeowners related to the associated fees. So This evening, we are back, and there are 5 fees that are outlined in your packet. An analysis is included as exhibit to the resolutions and will be the focus of my presentation this evening. So starting with the tree removal permit. This is called for in the new TPO. We looked at this kind of in magnitude of what it could be in terms of the number of trees that would fall under a single tree removal permit. A lot of jurisdictions require a permit for each tree proposed for removal. So we looked at that. We looked at the way some other jurisdictions did it. And we ended up proposing to break it into 2 tree removal permit fees, one being a flat fee. This would be for 1 to 3 trees on a property. This is a new permit fee on our master fee schedule. There is no current tree removal permit established on the fee schedule. We are proposing this fee at $381, which would be a flat fee for 1 to 3 tree removals. And this is to recover the costs associated with processing this permit, so that there would be no subsidy for the review of these permits. We looked at this following a format that is used with all of the city's fees and was part of the work behind the last update in 2024 to the user's fees. So one of the things you may remember is when we were here before you and talked about establishing these fees, our hope to keep this fee low, to keep it in line with other flat fee permits, such as a sign permit fee and a fence permit fee. So we started with the structure of the fence permit fee. We recognized that we needed to build in time for a consulting arborist to do at minimum a desk review of 15 to 30 minutes on all of the permits that come in to ensure that the information is adequate, complete. And so we reduced some of the associate planner time that you see in a fence permit. We reduced that down, knowing that we would be working with the consulting arborist. You might think, why 4 people touching a tree removal permit? These are the positions that touch permits as they come in. An analyst would be looking at the application coming in the portal. Did we receive the fee? Do we need to reach out and contact the applicant for the fee? Any kind of following feedback once the permit is issued. So that's that role. Associate planner would be looking, do we have everything we need? Did they respond to all the questions adequately before sending it to the consulting arborist? Consulting arborist would look at it, send recommendation back. Planning manager ultimately would likely be the designee of the director to review those recommended findings and approve or deny the permit. So we came up with $385.50, which is very close to that $381 fee that is proposed to kind of place it consistent with other administrative fees that come through the Community Development Department. The second approach to the tree removal permit is for 4 or more trees. So the proposal here is that this would be 100% cost recovery with a $1,000 deposit. This would typically be associated with development review projects. It would also be cost recovery. So the tree removal permit would be looked at as part of the entitlements, or if a permit came in, a permit request came in where a larger number of trees were being requested for removal. So again, this is a new permit, not on the current master fee schedule. It would be 100% cost recovery. And one of the things I want to point out is the way the ordinance is written is the findings that are in the ordinance need to be made for each tree. So once you get up to 4 trees and you're looking individually at 4 or more trees, the health or the reasons that the removal is being requested and the findings that are in the ordinance, that's why we decided on this as a threshold. Tree on-site consultation. This was something that if adequate information does not come in with a tree removal permit, recognizing that a site visit may be required by the consulting arborist. Alternatively, this is an opportunity for homeowners to voluntarily request the consulting arborist come out to review a tree situation on site, perhaps before an application even is submitted, to discuss options. So this is, again, a new fee, a flat fee of $240. This was based on the consulting arborist's hourly rate and the input from the arborist, that generally this ended up taking closer to an hour than a half an hour, given the dialogue that generally happens on these site visits. So that is where we propose this fee to come in, is to recover that cost. Tree replacement in lieu. This is also a new fee. This would be if a homeowner, for instance, removed a tree and did not wish to replace it on site. They could pay a tree replacement in lieu. This could also be used with development projects. Should the number of tree replacements not be able to be accommodated on site, in lieu fees could be paid into the city's urban forestry fund to support planting elsewhere in the city. This proposed fee is $300. That's based on material and labor costs to plant a 15-gallon replacement tree. You may remember that the way the ordinance was ultimately organized, all of the replacement ratios are based on a 15-gallon replacement tree. So this simplifies having a single in lieu replacement fee to apply in a number of different situations. Staff looked at tree replacement in lieu fees in a variety of other cities. They range significantly, upward of over $2,000 in some jurisdiction. So this is a pretty moderate in lieu fee, replacement fee, but also based on some estimates locally of 15-gallon tree and labor costs. It was a good estimate of the fee to ensure that that could then go into the city's urban forestry fund, and it could be used as the city's discretion for urban forestry priorities in the city. Encroachment permit. This is a revision to an existing permit fee. Currently, encroachment permit for tree is $268. And you may recall, in those of you that were on the council in 2024, there was a proposal for the encroachment permits for trees to actually come in closer to $1,000 based on the way things are currently structured, with the process of the encroachment permits being a review of the street trees being requested to be removed. So when we modified the ordinance so that there's a single tree removal permit, then the encroachment permit for removal of a street tree comes down to looking at traffic safety, insurance, those kind of things, and not the removal of the actual tree species. That will be done through the tree removal permit itself. So actually the proposed fee here is reduced and is proposed at $122 to recover estimated staff time to process that abbreviated process. The second resolution that is before the council is a modification to the city's administrative citation fees. This was last updated, I believe it was 2015, 2016 is the date of the resolution. This establishes citation fees consistent with the municipal code. Current citation fees specifically for violations related to trees are $100 for the first violation, $200 for the second violation, and $500 for the third. The proposal is to increase those to $500 for the first, $1,000 for the second, and $1,000 for the third or subsequent within a 12-month period. This was really to better align those citation fees with the city's values and priorities around tree protection and maintaining the tree canopy. So noticing was done in compliance with California Government Code. We did send notice 14 days prior to tonight's hearing to those that had submitted interested persons who had filed a written request with the city clerk. We also, 10 days prior, we posted the estimated cost and analysis for the fees being proposed, both for new fees as well as modified fees. And finally, CEQA findings consistent with adoption of the tree preservation ordinance, categorically exempt sections 15307 and 15308, and then also finding that the adoption of new fees and modification of existing fees are not seen as having the possibility of a significant effect on the environment and therefore being exempt. And so the recommendation is recommended that the council approve a resolution that would add new fees and modify existing fees on the Petaluma Master Fee Schedule associated with the implementation of the city's newly adopted tree preservation ordinance, and also approve a resolution that would modify the city's administrative citations related specifically to trees. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Let's again go to public on this, and I'll ask the clerk for her help.
We did not receive any comments ahead of the meeting, but I do have one card. If there's anyone else who would like to submit a card to speak, now's the moment.
Bryant Moynihan.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all, by the way, for coming and sitting down for a meeting. It gets awfully late, I know, and even those pretty cush seats, they get a little long or a little old after a while. I'm here to kind of offer a different perspective. You have a choice, really, of seeking 100% cost recovery or providing community service. And this is a good example. Fees and charges like this harm the community. The public property owners that have to endure street trees that are often planted by the city that disrupt their sidewalks that the city tells them they must repair is not being a good neighbor. The city should absorb 100% of the costs associated with all the street trees. Hiring arborists, to trim a tree is ridiculous. The property owner wouldn't normally hire an arborist, but it's mandated by the city. That is also ridiculous. Encroachment permits are stupid. There's no need to get an encroachment permit, right, to fix your sidewalk or to deal with a tree. And, I know that your council is very concerned about litigation, but the reality is you're self-insured. And to put the onerous to buy, to go through the process is tough. I have a sidewalk guy who patches sidewalks. He's a real nice guy. His name's Sergio. Sergio cannot get through your encroachment permit process. You have to go online to do it. They don't allow written encroachment permits anymore. You can't pull an application from City Hall. It is totally unfriendly. And it's not serving the public. Adding these fees on top of it is going to discourage people from planting trees or paying for them if they knew what they're up to. And you're going to see more people cutting trees down illegally. And it's been happening in the past. It's going to continue to happen simply because they're so frustrated with the process and they have no option really to vent it or to work with someone in person to deal with it. Your public works guys are good guys. They come on down and they talk to you. But all they're trying to do is enforce a policy. Pick up 100% of the cost of all street trees and 50% of the cost of sidewalk repairs. Other communities do it. Why can't Petaluma? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that closes public comment for the evening. And bring it back up to council. Does anyone want to weigh in on the fee structure tonight? Councilmember Shribs.
Thank you. First off, for fees, I'd look at them and as a homeowner, and that I might actually have to do this myself, go through this process. Yes, so the fees start looking a little bit high from a homeowner's perspective. They do look a little on the high side. However, we do have a policy of moving toward 100% recovery of the actual cost to the city to do this extra work for the citizens. So I'm willing to go along with the extra costs there. However, if there's cases such as there's a homeowner with a single 8-inch tree, not a 6-inch, 8-inch tree, just over the border of requirements, and they could even, it's still, and they're capable of actually removing it themselves. In fact, I've done that recently myself. I had one, I'm building a shed, and I needed to get a tree out of the way, 8 inches. I just did it myself, took down the tree myself. So this process of, we're talking about adding all these costs in, my total cost is like 50 cents of electricity for using equipment to chop down the tree and cut it up, put it in the green bin for the most part, cut all the logs up, put it in the green bin, goes to recycling. But now I'm looking at close to $500 fee to take down this one tree, which I did myself. So there is a concern, Mr. Moynihan, who believe has sat in these chairs or the prior chairs. So this is a little bit of a concern that I've had all along, but I'm willing to go along with these fees, but we're going to have to be generous in allowing folks a little bit of leeway. So if there is someone coming to the desk with a single 8-inch tree, it doesn't really, and it's a very quick, within the person at the desk, our folks who are there who understand what the requirements are and what's needed, can look at it and in 10 minutes go, hey, I understand your situation, I can deal with it. And it's not a complicated thing. It's a very easy 5-minute decision, not a half hour of 4 people making this type of, that is very inefficient for 4 people taking a half hour to an hour to make a simple 5-minute, really only a 5-minute decision. So I would like to go with giving staff the ability to reduce the costs in those cases so that if there is a case of very fast, easy, quick, it's only costing the staff a total of 15 minutes, see it.
Okay, got the concept. We're going to push it back at staff and ask if fee structures have that kind of latitude or counter has that kind of latitude to make the determination of a flexible fee.
So one of the things the council talked about with the adoption of the ordinance, there was some consideration of whether or not there should be an exemption for trees up to 12 inches on single-family homes, which was an option for a little bit of wiggle room for individual property owners. That's not what ended up being voted on and supported in the ordinance. So it does say at 6-inch diameter, you need a tree removal permit. If there is a flat fee required for a tree removal permit, staff doesn't have the authority to issue that permit without assessing the flat fee that the city establishes for that permit. So I just want to be clear because I don't want it to then be a situation where a staff member is in a situation that, you know, they don't have the authority to waive the fee.
So at last meeting, we discussed the ordinance, and that was the big crux between a 6 and 12, and we went 6. Now we're discussing fees. In the fees, can we put in an exception that addresses that? Because we're dealing with fees tonight. Can we say the fee does not apply a single tree, single family dwelling, less than, well, it doesn't apply to 6, so we're saying less than 12.
I'd say less than to 12 inches. Let's keep it standard within our system.
This is going to get legal before long.
Yeah.
So, and Brian might grab the microphone from me. So the council is the policy maker in this situation. So if there was no fee cost for single family homes, let's just play out a scenario, then the city is not going to recover the cost of the staff time to process that application. So that is a budgetary consideration for the council, that would need to be considered, because the city has typically, that's how the fees are established, is there's an assessment of what work goes into the receiving, the processing, the reviewing, the closing out, the, issuing the permit. There's an estimate on the cost of that, and the city has typically assessed those fees as covering the full cost of the processing of the applications. So if there's a different way the council wants to do it, I think that the question is a budgetary question on how to cover those fees.
If I could follow up, while we can waive a fee in a fee conversation tonight, we can't waive the consultation or I think what you call sufficient documentation part, so costs will incur.
Correct. So there's the time for staff, and then there's a time for consultation. Right. The consultation for the consulting arborist, there is going to be those costs associated with the review.
Right. What I'm concerned about is efficiency of government at this point. This application should be a half page with a picture. It should take 5 minutes or less, even 1 minute to read. And even if 4 people touch it, from efficiency, from a government point of view, I could see this process start to finish if it's done correctly electronically, and it's just, okay, I'm just going to, I look at, there's 10 or 20 applications today because there's lots of arborists out there do it, as well as homeowners. Arborists is where they do 90% of it, because that's where we need to put our emphasis. I'm saying for the single homeowner who would like to comply, that the process should be very efficient, not a half hour per person, not an hour of looking at things. It should be 5 minutes to take care of, to look at this, make a decision, and move on. So I'm concerned about the hours and times you're putting on the staff time to come up with $385. I think we can be much more efficient than that on staff.
So council, a couple quick thoughts. And some of this will be to reaffirm what the mayor and Heather said.
Thank you for our listening, our at-home audience. Our attorney Eric Danley is weighing in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is, as has been noted, the council has already made the policy decisions that are reflected in the tree preservation ordinance, and this is the follow-up action that the council directed staff to come back with for fees to implement those policy choices that are reflected in the council's ordinance. And what staff have presented, and I think it's helpful if, I'm sure the council's looked at it and reviewing the package in Exhibit B. This is the fee we're talking about now, the fee that's being presented for consideration as authorizing the removal of up to 3 trees. And the analysis, as should be done and as we consistently do to reflect the actual cost of doing that work, is laid out in Exhibit B. It sounds like Councilmember Shribs, and I think the council would have this flexibility, but staff, indicate if there's a conflict. It's conceivable to me that it wouldn't have to be, that there could be a single tree removal. I think what Councilmember Shribs is arguing for instead of up to 3. I think we need to come back with the revised analysis for that, but we could do the math and sort of anticipate what that would be, and presumably it would be less time. I don't think much conclusive and thorough work can happen in 5 minutes, even though it sounds like it's a simple process. So I'd just like to offer that, and staff can provide more detail about what actually is involved. So if the council doesn't like this kind of bundling approach for up to 3 trees, I think that might be an option that I don't think would disturb the policy choices, but staff are the ones that do that work. We just help from the legal department when they have questions.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Shribs?
Yeah, so maybe a scale that a little bit less for a single tree for single family home where they are applying it for themselves. In those cases, I think a reduced fee would be more appropriate. That way we actually get people. If it's $385 as a homeowner, I'm never going to apply for a permit at $385 if I have to come in and make up the paperwork to take out a single 8-inch tree. I'm not going to do it. And I don't think anybody else is going to do that either. So for a single tree, for a family to do it themselves without the professionals, I want to be a little more lenient on cost.
And can I ask staff, is the tree protection ordinance due for second reading?
It's adopted. Yeah, it's adopted. You did
It's
the
adopted.
second
We
reading.
did that. So that flexibility is off
So,
the table.
Mayor, just
Please.
one sort of suggestion. Just I'm hearing the back and forth. So if we end up, one option we could, unless I hear an objection from a legal perspective, we have flat fees and we have cost recovery. Cost recovery is typically for development review, longer processes, but it potentially could give us the flexibility to, let's say we set a relatively low deposit, we collect $100 up front. Most projects we would expect to as Heather described, it would take that amount of time. Could we potentially get it down through some process improvement? Perhaps. This is our best guess at this point. So I think switching to a cost recovery model would give us that flexibility. I also want to point out, I don't think the intent of what council had adopted can be done in a 5-minute exercise. We'll certainly try to get there, but I offer up this suggestion to start with, if there's a level of comfort, and we'll be hawkish in looking at how much that application or that permit gets generated. If we need to adjust and come back, we would do that expediently. So that's just one offer.
Thank you. Councilmember Quinn?
Thank you. I just want to, are we in question and comment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Do we know how many permits are issued for fences a year?
I don't have that off the top of my head, no.
Thank you. I didn't, I think it would have been a good question ahead of time. I didn't think about it, but I'm asking it because it's relevant. We're using it as a comparison point for this. And I'm wondering if, what I'm wondering is, how many permits for fences do we sell versus fences that get built? Because, I feel like 3.5 hours of city professional services for a permit is excessive. I'm not going to go down the path and say it should be done in 5 minutes, but I don't think it should take 3.5 hours. And staff is, your job is to come here and say, well, this is kind of how long we think it's going to take. And our job is, being the representative of the people, is to say, well, I think it's natural for us, and we should kind of push back on that a little bit and say, we think you can do it quicker. And I'm not a fan of the cost recovery for the smaller permits. I would challenge staff to be more efficient with it, to make it something less than $385. I would go so far as to say, half of that, and give it a year. And if you come back and tell us you're getting killed on tree permits, then maybe we look at increasing it next year. Like, that would be my thinking, just to kind of make it simple and get something across the goal line. I like the revision of the encroachment the revision of the encroachment permit pricing, and I would like to see. So I want to make it easier for people to get permits, and I want to see the penalties stiffer for people who violate the law. And I would advocate that I'd like to see the escalating penalty stretch out over 36 months rather than 12 months. That's what I have to say.
Councilmember Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The property owners for sidewalks, we as a city provide them some financial aid right now, correct? I see shaking of heads.
I believe there is a sidewalk repair program with Public Works.
And I'm wondering if we could maybe also do that for some of our tree, especially the ones that were planted in front of properties like on Kentucky Street. The property owners are responsible for them, and they have ruined the sidewalks. They're growing up into the buildings. The rodent problem, they need to be trimmed back. Some of them are not the right species for that particular ground to be inside a sidewalk. So I'd like some discussion from staff on what we can do to help those property owners. Some of these fees I can see. There's a property owner that wants to develop their property and split it into maybe 3 different, they have a big lot in West Petaluma, and they want to maybe remove some trees to build some housing units. We need more housing, so, I can see there's going to be some staff time. In my neighborhood today, someone was cutting down a redwood, and I didn't know what to tell them. I just said, call code enforcement, and I gave them all the city connections and website information, because I don't even know what you do if you see a neighbor, and not very many neighbors do it for fences, but people do it for if they see a tree being cut down. And I do know that arborists are not aware of our new tree ordinance and that we're even discussing it.
So we are in the process of drafting a letter that will be going at and developing a list of all the tree contractors, both with business licenses in the city, and we have kind of a running list from people who have gotten permits over time, and we'll be sending something out in the near future. So we are working on that as a notification.
Great.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you for your presentation, Heather. Do you know how much staff time you anticipate this will take annually based on the projected number of permits you might receive?
So it's very hard to project how many permits we're going to receive, because so much doesn't require a permit now that the number of tree removal permits that do come in our process are very, very low. And I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I feel like it was something like 5 or 8 last year. It was something very low, because the current for another few weeks, ordinance doesn't require a permit for removal of hardly anything. So it's very hard to know how many tree removal permits to estimate, since we don't have that background.
So there is no projection as far as numbers go, or is there?
There is not a projection in terms of how many tree removal permits we expect to see in 2026.
Do we expect that we have the amount of staff available and resources on hand to handle that?
we do, and we have been able to flex up and flex down to when additional permits come in, we have been able to flex up and flex down to cover the additional or the reduced activity in the department.
How close to cost are we with the fees? Because the numbers for the fees seem very round, or arbitrary.
So what we went off of as a starting point for the tree removal permit fee was based on quite a considerable amount of work that was done by the city in 2024 when the city did a user fee update to look at all of the fees citywide. So that's what we used as a starting point because there had been so much time put into that recently. Our attempt also was not to come out with anything more expensive than those fees, so we actually reduced the time. I feel like if I'm remembering correctly, a fence permit was an hour of an analyst and 3 hours of an associate and a half an hour of a planning manager. So it was more time, and in an effort to keep the cost down at $381, and knowing we had to work in time for the consulting arborist, we reduced the time in an effort to keep that fee as low as possible. So that's what we were working off of, was a considerable amount of work that the city had done in 2024 across all the fees.
But we're talking about keeping it as low as possible, but we don't know what cost is.
Well, that's our best estimate of what the cost is based on the hours and the positions that are in the Exhibit B.
Okay, so there's 3 things that come to mind for me, where I think we need to be consistent with things. We did just hear a presentation on the blue zones and from blue zones, and how high financial stress is in Petaluma right now and how much of a concern that is to people's health and well-being. So I think adding something like that contributes to it. It doesn't lessen it. And, I think too, we just recently talked about public transit and, to keep the transit system fare free, to help people, to entice them to ride, to, make it easier on people. It's with the tree ordinance. I like the ordinance. I mean, we all supported it. We want to protect our trees here, but with the trees, if we're going to start charging a fee, that's going to it's been mentioned, it's going to disincentivize people from wanting to come to the city and apply for a permit. So we're kind of contradicting ourselves with that. And then at the same time, if we're trying to make it easier for people to be homeowners or first-time homeowners in Petaluma, this is not helping that situation either. So, I think we all supported the tree ordinance, and for me, to kind of restate what I said then, we have so many trees that are just as old as the city or older that everybody loves our downtown and how old that is, and the trees are actually a big part of that people don't always consider or realize. And so while the ordinance is great, I think the fees are just, they're too severe. They don't incentivize people to do the right thing in protecting their trees. And I think we need to streamline things, again, because we are doing this for the community. So we need to streamline things, make it an easier, quicker process for staff so that the cost for staff is lower. And at the same time, we need to figure out what the minimal cost could be in this entire process. So I think the rest of council is kind of going down that road too, and I think that's what we would like to see.
Okay, Councilmember Cater Thompson.
So we're talking about all trees. What if we differentiate between like a front yard versus a backyard, because that's where you're going to get more of a visual impact if somebody takes trees out on the front yard or in street trees. So I mean, I definitely would want to have review if it's a street tree or a front yard tree. And
So the ordinance that was adopted requires the tree permit to be issued for all the trees. The city could decide that there needs to be a subsidy of the fees associated with processing the application, or a subsidy for the first year, and we can track it and come back and modify. We can reduce the fees and track it and come back and say, there was a default subsidy, if you will, of that fee. So this was the best estimate based on the work that the city did with, other administrative fees in the department. There are quite a few findings and requirements that are in the ordinance, so we need to make sure that we are reviewing them consistently. So I'm open for suggestions on a different way to approach that.
Any more on that?
Well, I'm thinking about what Councilmember Quint said and kind of agree going in that direction and reviewing it so we can, manage it and look at it in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of where I'm interested. I first think that when we adopted this tree protection ordinance, we noticed what a substantive thing it was, and we noticed how we were driving it down to the 6-inch tree. I mean, we noticed it was going to be a big deal and a big change. So we can't now be surprised to say that there's fees involved, and and it's going to cost at staff time or cost on the individuals. The question is like, do we want to hold on that, and do we believe the process takes as much as the staff consultation at this point? So to try and sync this up, I kind of support what Councilmember Quint is saying. The point is to keep trees, and that's what Member Carney was saying too. We want to preserve trees. So I like the 36-month part, and then the other part, when we don't really know what this process is going to take. I'd propose that for single tree, not the 2 and 3, but the single tree, we drop it to 150, more or less half, go 1 year. We do fees every year. So we track the one tree thing and see what we get. So does that have some support on council? Councilmember Shribs.
Yes, because I can see in a single tree for homeowners to do it themselves, it doesn't go to 4 people. It just goes to 1. The permit process should be, for that type of situation, should go straight to the arborist, could be online. He looks at it, makes a decision, yes, no, he can do it, and I know he can do it. The one we have can do that in 15 minutes, just having a little bit of knowledge about if there's something about in the planning process. But I don't see 4 people making a decision on this. It should be just the one if it's a single tree.
And I think what you're hoping to do there is drive a staff policy, but I don't think that we can quite do that from here. I think we express our direction and ask them to come in at an effort that requires that consistent with the ordinance. So I think it's like point taken, and then shifting over to our attorney.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Right, that's that kind of detailed administrative direction is not really what we're here from the council to receive from the council tonight. We're here to receive from the council policy direction about the fees to go along with the policy direction about the ordinance. There's also a legal framework that Heather's tracking to in her comments to you, and that the package is structured to do, and that is a few things. One, these fees, we treat them as service fees under Government Code Section 66014, which is part of the Mitigation Fee Act. And like the rest of the act, it provides for us to establish, the city to establish a sufficient record that it's not over recovering the cost that it's charging for providing the services that it's providing. And the structure of this package is consistent with that. And we gave 10 days notice of the support and the facts and the analysis to justify these fees. So if we change that too much, we may have to renotice and come back, which if we have to, that's fine. That's the council's prerogative. There's nothing that says, and the council has touched on this and staff have too, there's nothing that says we have to recover these fees from those that are receiving them. The council could choose to subsidize those staff costs from the general fund. And if the council gives that direction to discount them and not fully recover, then we'll follow that direction. I don't think we need to renotice because we've given the upside notice already. So the council can do that, but that's something the general fund will have to absorb. I think the council could direct that we come up with a single tree removal fee consistent with the analysis that we've provided. Because remember, this is not arbitrary what's being provided. That those staff cost rates are accurate. The math is accurate. The question mark is how much time it actually takes, and it's going to vary, but the estimates are reasonable. So the council has that flexibility, but that's kind of the framework within which we need to work.
Good point. Okay, gotcha. Does the city manager want to weigh in?
Yeah, I was just going to ask for staff to pull that hourly rate up, and I think for a single tree, we probably can cut out some of that staff time and try to get the cost down for the single tree.
Because presumably what's provided for up to 3 trees is up to 3 trees, and one is, at maximum will be, even by English major math, would be a third, right?
Oh, I'm happy to take a third. I don't know if the analysis is linear, but.
So a couple things, and I will pull it up. I was just looking at it. So to Councilmember Tribb's point, there was a conversation with the consulting arborist trying to think about this. One of the things that was said is he can likely keep things to a desk review of 15 to 30 minutes if what he is receiving from the city is thorough. And so part of this time that staff needs to spend is looking at what is submitted. We can do a lot to have a robust application form, ask questions, ask people to add things. But one of the things that takes more time if what goes to the consulting arborist, who is the more expensive charge on all of this, if the information isn't thorough, if there's not pictures, some of those kind of things. So some of that is a city staff person reviewing what comes in, following up with the applicant if it's not thorough, to make sure we get the additional information, to send it to the consulting arborist to keep it as low as possible of his time, which is one of the more expensive, the most expensive hourly rate. So that was some of the thinking there. We can, to Eric's point, we could do a single tree. I don't think it's going to go to a third of the price because it is still going to require the consulting arborist review. And so that is estimated at $120. So we can't there's only so much you can do there, and that is going to be a bill that is coming to the city for the time spent. So that is a limitation on how low that fee can go in and of itself. But I do.
So
we could look at
we're
reducing.
kind of in a thing here where we're uncomfortable with the fee, but we need to figure out: do we want to just say that we're going to set it at a flat fee and find out later, and if need be, that's a subsidy, or do we want to propose to reanalyze this and send it off, which I think is bad government to send it back off and come back again. So, when are you comfortable proposing something here?
Okay, but because then you're also adding in the encroachment fee and everything. But I'd see a total fee of $200 for someone to submit and get the work done for 1 to 3 trees. Let's start with the $200 flat fee for that, and encourage folks to actually do the process, because there's a lot of homeowners that will do a lot of single trees, but the area that I think is the most impactful is going to be not the arborists. The arborists are going to be following the rules, the bigger arborists. It's the landscape crews, the small crews, the 1 and 2 truck crews that go in and do all the small trees. And those are the ones we really need to bring in the fold to cooperate with this. So I think keeping it down to a $200 total, wherever it is on the property, should work. Anyway, I'll let Councilman Quint.
Yeah, if that were a motion, I would second it.
Can I ask clarifying? Well, I guess we don't have to your point, Eric, we don't have to recover the whole fee. I'm like looking at the numbers. Right. So if we want to say a flat fee for a single tree removal to be 200, is that what I'm hearing? Even if we play with these numbers and it comes up with 220, we can still have a fee of 200. Yes. Because we don't have to recover the
legally we can. And okay. I think the important thing is this is staff's best estimate about the staff time costs for doing this work. The council does not have to fully recover those, so you're making some choices about that.
Appreciated. Yeah. Let me further on the clarifying thing. I think you said and encroachment.
Right, a total fee for the whole package. In other words, a permit to remove a tree would be just $200 flat total, period, including the encroachment and everything. Just $200 fee.
And the other point that you made was for the whole 1 to 3, rather than we were parsing for one previously.
I'd just go with just the one, just for one single tree. For the three, if it's 3 trees, we can charge that much, I think.
So
it's a single tree removal.
So what you're doing is parsing out the 1 and leaving the 2, 3 all as per shown.
Yeah, if I can get something, if I can get that, I'd be happy.
So can we confirm that, to just confirm what the direction is? Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is for removal of a single tree, $200 flat fee that includes the tree removal permit cost and the encroachment permit cost
if needed
for the single tree.
Yes.
So that'll mean some revisions in this structure that has been presented to you to reflect that, but the direction is clear, and that's less than what we noticed to the public, so it's not a legal problem. So if that's the direction.
And there is no second reading on this.
No. And
so you're crafting on the fly here.
Am I also hearing that keep 2 to 3 trees as at the 381, we're creating a difference for a single tree removal?
Right. I think for getting cooperation from both landscapers and
so I'm going to accept that as a motion.
I'll make that as a motion and let someone set that discussion.
We have a second so we have a motion from Shribs, a second from Quint, and did you have a comment to add? Any other comments?
Mayor, can I ask a clarification?
Please.
Are we also changing the time period on the administrative citations to 36 months?
We can ask the motion maker if that's included in his motion.
Yes, let's please include that in the motion.
And that works for the second?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor?
I'm curious with the in lieu of fee, I don't know. I mean, is that necessary too? If they're going to be planting a 15-gallon tree already, is that the city sponsoring a 15-gallon replacement?
No, if there is if a property owner is planting a 15-gallon replacement, there is no in lieu fee. That's if they don't want to replace the tree.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And with that, we have no further questions on this. We'll go to a roll call vote on the motion.
Well, could we restate what we've done?
Please restate.
Sure. So the motion is to create a tree removal permit for a single tree that would be set at $200 inclusive of the encroachment permit if needed to remove a street tree. And to keep the 380.
Street tree, any one tree.
Well, you don't need an encroachment permit.
Right.
Except for a street tree. Okay. So what I'm saying is it would be a tree removal permit for a single tree at $200. If that single tree is a street tree, that is inclusive of the encroachment permit fee.
Okay.
Keep 2 to 3 trees at the 381 and with the administrative citations, replace the 12 months with 36 months.
Okay, thank you for that readback. And now our roll call vote.
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarly?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you,
you.
staff. Appreciate all the help on that one. Item 11 is introduction, first reading of an ordinance for the Rancho Arroyo Business Park and planned community development, zoning district regulations to add outdoor recreational vehicles as a permitted accessory use and minor associated amendments, and making the findings that this is categorically exempt CEQA. And to help us out, we have Larissa Alchin, our senior planner. Welcome. So we want to offer an opportunity to fast track this, and so I will, prior to presentation, poll the council. Are there any concerns that are going to be raised here?
Well, I think we should hear the presentation.
Well, fast tracking would mean not, and help us get through our agendas, and it's part of what we're going to need for streamlining on future items. This requires a hearing, but it need not require a full presentation if we've read the packet and don't have particular concerns. So maybe I'll lead with, if you share a particular concern, the presentation can lead to that point, and we can narrow our concerns.
Well, I mean, I think the presentation may differ from, not differ, but give more insight to the material provided. I think we should hear it.
Okay.
Do we have somewhere to be tonight?
I think you feel the sense of the council, the broad sense of the council, and can adjust in accordance.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We will go quickly through this presentation. It's quite short. So tonight, this is the first reading of an ordinance to amend the Rancho Arroyo Business Park Planned Community Development, commonly known or referred to as the PCD, in order to add the outdoor recreational vehicle storage as a permitted accessory use. Perfect. This slide here in front of you is just depicting the parcels that would be subject to this PCD amendment. They are generally consistent with between the Petaluma River and Highway 101 in the northern part of the city. There are two parcels that have no frontage on industrial. That's 85 Corona Road and 1118 Auto Center Drive. Next slide, please. This is in response to an application that the Plan Division received. It also addresses a community need. Police data verified and identified 358 RV-related calls for service over the last 3 years. Many of those situations involve unhoused individuals living in RVs, but that also involves RV owners parking their RVs in unpermitted places, such as in the public right-of-way, in yards not surfaced for parking. I did want to be clear that this is a PCD amendment that would only apply to those specific parcels, not throughout the whole city, so that's limited in scope. Next slide, please. So as a project overview, this is the first reading of the Rancho Arroyo Business Park PCD amendment to add the RV storage as a permitted accessory use. It also adds a section N to that PCD to standardize the development standards for this particular use, as well as establish management and operational requirements. Next slide. Some of those standards include hours of, wrong slide. This was a brief slide about the Planning Commission action. The two topics that came up during that meeting were hours of operation and the classification of the use. So I will briefly talk about both of those topics on a future slide, so we can skip ahead. So this use classification and why we decided to go with the permitted accessory use rather than a permitted by right or a conditional use. we went with the accessory use to limit the size and kind of limit the operations to being accessory to a permitted use. So that's why the permitted accessory use land use classification was chosen instead of the CUP, which is a discretionary review process, which requires sometimes a public hearing, but public noticing always, and may be denied, and it doesn't provide the certainty for an applicant when they come in. Next slide, please. Some of the other performance standards that were written into the PCD around this particular use were setbacks, landscape buffers, screening, lighting, nuisance mitigation, and vehicle condition. That would include requiring the vehicles to be drivable, registered, not derelict, so they could be moved if needed. Next slide, please. And this is a slide on the general plan and IZO findings. To make this PCD amendment, the findings are the same for adopting a new PCD. So those include thoroughfare adequacy, natural scenic qualities, public welfare, and unified arrangement of the use. Next slide. And then environmental review, it was determined that the project or the PCD amendment would be categorically exempt under 15303 was an existing facilities exemption and the common sense exemption. Of course, any future projects would likely require a SPAR if there was development happening, building permit, so that future development would go through a process for review. Next slide. And so staff's recommendation is to introduce this zoning amendment ordinance to amend the PCD. It would add the recreational RV storage as a permitted accessory use. It would authorize some minor associated administrative amendments to the PCD that were identified when we reviewed it, and then make the findings that the action is categorically exempt. Next slide. And that's the end of my presentation. Happy to answer your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's go to a public comment. That is seemed to be a streamlined process. How are we doing with public comment?
We did not receive any public comments on this item ahead of the meeting, and I don't have any cards on this item, but this is the moment.
Seeing no one stepping forward on this item, we'll close public comment, bring it up to the council for its deliberation. Councilmember DeCarli, any thoughts on this one?
No, thank you.
Anyone want to, Councilmember Shribs?
A couple questions. First one, I've ridden my bike over there and driven over there for the autos and sales. And I don't remember a residence anywhere near those sites. Where is the residence that you're talking about? Can you bring up the map and point to it?
It's on Corona Road.
Yeah, I'm not sure if my computer's pulled up. It's right behind 85 Corona.
It's on the Corona frontage road when they move the overpass and they're behind the barber shop. It's right down at the south end.
Oh, okay. I
You
realize
turn
that's
off
across the
Corona
road.
on Industrial.
But that's
Right there.
across the road, not abutting.
It's tucked in the back. It's almost to the freeway.
Yeah. Right, where the old athletic club, the Valley.
See how the property.
Yeah, the map is pretty small in this presentation, but.
And does that satisfy you? Do you have
Okay.
another point?
Yes,
on
I
that?
have other points. The second one, when I asked the question, who is actually thinking about putting in the RV storage and where, and looking at that, bring the map up again, please, because the map is important as to where. And I was thinking of the possibilities of where the best storage might be on that site, but what I got back when I asked the question and what I got back was the actual blank spot, not the green spot, but actually the blank spot between that's down there between the where the sign says industrial and auto center. There's the land, which is right next to the storage unit, the new one. Is that the land that we're actually talking about? That's going to get that someone wants to put an RVs on?
Council member, no, not the vacant parcel that fronts industrial. It's actually the parking lot of the former Petaluma Valley Athletic Club. So the club is being repurposed for a self-storage facility. And then the parking lot, which would accommodate anywhere from 30 to 50 vehicles when the athletic club was open for business, would then be repurposed for the outdoor RV storage.
Right. Would that also include, there's little, like a side road between the dike and then the building that a lot of folks have parked in? Is that included in that? Because that's also not.
No, because that's Old Corona Road. So that's a public right-of-way.
Can you show it with the cursor just so council member?
It would be right there, just the parking lot that's in front of the former athletic club only.
Okay, good. That's a lot smaller. I thought we were talking about the vacant lot that was on the map, but it's not the vacant lot. It's just the parking lot that we're talking about. Because the other area that is possible, I could see in that area where on the auto mall, folks, there's a lot of storage between there and what's now Chick-fil-A. There's a large piece of property that was used for a lot of RVs for sales and storage, which are no longer there. It's now pretty much unoccupied land. That's the second spot. And is that spot also on this map? Because I couldn't quite tell.
I'm not sure. I don't think it is, because I think that site is under a different PCD. It's under the Auto Center PCD.
That's close to the freeway.
Right.
That's not
right.
not marked here. So
right.
so that's a second area that I could see as potentially usable for RVs. So is there any way we can get that included?
Well, that
thing?
PCD would have to be amended. We would have to take it back through a public review process in order to amend that PCD.
Okay, so the end result is there's only one small little piece of property on this, all the great area that would be applicable, really.
Well, one of our goals was to prevent, so for instance, going back to the vacant parcel fronting Industrial Avenue that you thought would be the, right. So what we're trying to do is prevent the conversion of vacant land or underutilized land to outdoor RV storage. That's why we're doing it as a use accessory to a primary use. So the auto sales and rental uses, if they have parking spaces that aren't being utilized, they could propose to convert those to the outdoor RV storage. They would have to be secured and screened. But it would preclude establishment of a storage-only use on any of the parcels.
Right. Yeah, I just want to, the points I'm trying to make is we don't want to use the vacant lots immediately that could be used for more useful things, not just for RV. We need RV storage. Yes, you're finding the right spot. And now that you've described it as, I can see it now. I can believe in it and I can go for it. But I wasn't sure before because I wasn't quite what we were actually talking about. And so the other area, what I'd like to see is more of this being done throughout the city if we can, especially in the industrial parks. And so I just would like to promote that, yes, we need RV storage in areas like this. If we can do more of this, I would support that. I just want to make sure where we're doing, what we're doing, and why we're doing it, so it's clear to the folks.
Sure.
Okay,
and one of the benefits of this PCD amendment is we really modeled how we would approach creating a land use in the implementing zoning ordinance as part of the zoning reform project that would allow for outdoor RV storage to be in the standard zoning ordinance where it could be allowed in other locations throughout the city. So I would look at this PCD amendment as being the language that we would bring over to the zoning reform project and expand it in the standard zoning districts. And that would be subject then to community input as well as public review by the Planning Commission and City Council.
The other comment that when I put a question in and got a response back, again, in the letters after, that reports, was that we have a lot, having an RV and having stored it and looked at other RVs in the storage areas, there are a lot of dilapidated older RVs that are just kind of sitting there because people don't use them, and they're sitting there for years and years because that's easier to do that than try to sell them or use them or get rid of them. So we also need a second program of let's open up current RV storage that is full. Let's see if we can get some of those older, unused vehicles out to somewhere else or sold to someone who is going to use them and be more effective and efficient in our RV storage spaces.
Good feedback.
Thank you.
Councilmember Quinn?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the ordinance.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion from Quint and a second from Cater Thompson. And seeing no other voices, wait 1 second here. We've got Councilmember Now.
You skipped over me. Going back off of Councilmember Shribs, there is an existing RV and boat storage, and there doesn't seem to be any enforcement. So who's going to be enforcing that they're going to be doing everything that we're asking?
Sure, so that's a great point. With this PCD amendment in the Rancho Arroyo PCD, we'll have operational standards that can be enforced by code enforcement. Part of the issue right now is because we don't allow outdoor RV storage, we don't have any standards to enforce where we have existing storage facilities.
But we do have one. It's on Lindbergh Lane, diagonal around the corner from.
Sure, you have a facility, but the zoning code doesn't have any standards for how to operate it.
Okay, and will this one also have boat storage?
Well, we've described it as RV storage. The applicant is here if you'd like to ask that question of the applicant.
So will it also include, because we have a lot of boats that are sitting on residential streets?
I think it just suffice to say, what does the code allow? Does code allow boat storage?
Yeah, it would.
So that's the answer. So yes, if he wants to do that, he can do that.
Oh, so what's the description again?
Well, I think it's in the staff report.
It's in the staff. We just asked, does what we're permitting allow boats? And the answer was yes from staff.
Okay, but it doesn't say boats. It says
recreational vehicle, but it includes boats.
Yes. Okay. So see, the general public doesn't.
Good point. Good clarification. Councilmember Cater Thompson, did you have something?
My only comment is I'm really looking forward to the parking ordinance coming so we can deal with this, because that's why we're having this conversation, because we don't have any storage for boats and recreational vehicles, and they're all over streets.
Good point.
So I'm really happy to support this.
Councilmember DeCarli.
Andrew, what's the red boundary again in the map or the overhead view?
You popped them in.
The red boundary?
Yeah.
That's the city jurisdictional boundary.
Oh, I see, between the county and city over there. Okay, right. That's right. Yeah, and the blue areas are all where this would be affected, right? That in the
Correct. Those are the areas that are subject to the current PCD.
Okay. Are there any environmental concerns with, if say some of those are fields right now, if they get paved, what that's going to do to water that's not recharging the ground but getting run off into the creek?
Well, if development is proposed, it would be subject to environmental review under CEQA. And so those potential impacts would have to be mitigated if they're found to be, if there are found to be environmental impacts. For the project right now that is initiating the PCD amendment, no, because that's a previously existing development.
Correct.
So there
yeah,
wouldn't be an
because
expansion.
That's just the athletic facility.
Right.
But then, if you're looking at that corridor right there and all those areas right along the creek or potential sites, why wouldn't you include the one at the corner of Stony Point and Old Redwood?
Well, because that's not included in the PCD. So we're only amending the Rancho Arroyo PCD. And when we go up there to Stony Point and Old Redwood, that's not within a PCD. It's a standard zoning district. It's zone C1. So, and we're not amending the IZO, just the PCD.
Thank you.
I think that brings us to a roll call vote.
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarli?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, team. Thank you for being here. And that brings us to item 12, which is a public hearing regarding resolutions of the Petaluma City Council and the Petaluma Public Financing Authority authorizing the issuance of state tax bonds by the City of Petaluma and issuance of lease revenue bonds by the Petaluma Public Financing Authority to finance the cost of constructing the new Petaluma Public Safety Facility and approving related documents, agreements, and actions. And wow, we're teed up already. Okay, so to help us out with this today, we have our Assistant City Manager, Brian Cochran. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Tonight, we are pleased to be here to present the financing plan for the new public safety facility at the fairgrounds. And I'm joined here tonight by several members of our financing team, including Stephen Gordeler, the municipal financial advisor for the city, as well as James Wozniak with the law firm of Jones Hall, serving as bond counsel on these transactions. This project will bring together several important public safety functions into one modern facility, including a police station, fire station number 4, fire headquarters, and an emergency operations center. It adds a new fire station location, number 4, which will help improve emergency response coverage across the city. The existing facilities are outdated and antiquated, and this project is intended to replace and improve on those conditions while supporting long-term public safety needs as outlined in the Public Safety Facilities Master Plan that came to council just over 2 years ago. The total construction cost proposed for financing is $55 million, and that is divided into 2 main components that we'll be talking to you about tonight. The first is a 30-year tax-exempt sales tax bond for about 56% of that $55 million total, or just under $31 million. The second is a 30-year tax-exempt lease revenue bond for the remaining 44%, or approximately $24 million. In addition to construction, so the $55 million is just construction. In addition to that, the overall project budget, including design, site work, related drainage improvements at the fairgrounds, et cetera, is a total estimated budget of about $71 million for the full project. So a bit more detail on each of the bond issuances individually. The sales tax bond would be secured by the city's allocation of Measure H revenues only. No other city revenues would be pledged to repay that bond. And just to remind everybody, Measure H is the countywide half-cent sales tax that was approved by Sonoma County voters in 2024, specifically for local fire prevention, related services, facilities, and equipment. Petaluma receives just over 7% of that tax, and that is dedicated to Petaluma services and facilities. And the revenues are distributed to all of the other participating cities and fire districts and agencies throughout Sonoma County. Based on the most recent 12 months of data that we have for the period ending December 31, 2025, the city received about $4.5 million from Measure H revenues, and the annual debt service for the sales tax bond itself would be about $1.8 million. So less than half of our overall Measure H revenue is being taken up with the debt service. The remaining half or more will be allocated to other uses, such as staffing costs for the new station. Moving on to the lease revenue bonds, the other half of this proposed financing plan, that would fund the remaining share of construction, as I said, about $24 million. Annual debt service for the lease revenue bonds would be $1.4 million. For the first 26 years of the bonds, the last 4 years, there's a bit of a wraparound component once our 2021 lease revenue bonds drop off of the schedule. But together with the 2021, so if you look at our 2021 and our 26 lease revenue bonds combined, that debt service is about $2.3 million over that 30-year period. Staff have reviewed both the current and projected general fund revenues and expenditures and have built those debt service payments into the fiscal 26-27 budget that council will be reviewing in a few weeks, as well as our 5-year general fund forecast. And we'll continue to budget for the lease payments over the life of those bonds through our general fund and our Measure U revenues. And speaking of Measure U, as part of the original Measure U implementation plan adopted or proposed back in 2021, Measure U revenues have been designated for this purpose and have been included in the city's long-term forecast since that time, since 2021. A few additional points on the financing structure. So both bonds are fixed rate, no variable rate debt here, and they're callable after 10 years, meaning that if at some future point after 10 years interest rates are significantly better or lower than the rates at which we issue the bonds, there may be an opportunity for the city to refinance the debt into a lower interest rate to save overall interest costs. And additionally, I wanted to note that the bonds are not issued immediately upon assuming council approval tonight. They're not issued, say, tomorrow. There's a process that we go through, and we will be monitoring market conditions along with our financing team, evaluating the project bids. They'll come back in mid to late May, and then size and time the final bond issuance accordingly once council has signed off on the final bid award for the construction of the project. In the event of something crazy happening in the market or we need to retract, we also have the ability to delay or cancel the sale. So we have kind of the full suite of options after this approval if something changes. In terms of issuance costs, estimated issuance costs are about $364,000 for the sales tax bond and about $294,000 for the lease revenue bond. And the vast majority of those, say 95% of those costs or so, would be paid from bond proceeds only if the sales go through, only if the bond issuances are actually executed. If they are not for some reason, then most of the issuance cost is not due and payable from the city. From a process standpoint, this item is before you tonight as a public hearing, and the authorization of the financing and the public notices were published in the Press-Democrat and the Argus Courier. So the recommendation before you tonight is to hold the public hearing and adopt the resolutions that are before you needed to authorize both of the financing components that we walked through. And I will note that for the sales tax bond, there's one resolution of the City Council. For the lease revenue bonds, there is a resolution of the City Council as well as a resolution of the Petaluma Public Financing Authority. So that's a total of 3 resolutions that you would be adopting tonight if you move forward with the recommendation. And so that includes my introductory comments, and staff are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Obviously a big day. This is the biggest project the city's undertaken in some time, so a lot of important steps. I'd like to invite public comment. Will you please fill us in on that piece?
We did receive one comment ahead of the meeting on this item, and that's, thank you. That's attached to the agenda on the website, and I'm getting some cards in now. Thank you.
We have 2 cards tonight to speak on the matter. The first is Chantel Rogers, to be followed by Brian Moynihan.
Hi. So somehow we have taken on this incredibly expensive project that requires issuing bonds and paying over $4 million a year for the foreseeable future. I think sometimes we think that Measure bonds, Measure H, Measure U is like free money, and it's not. Other cities who are receiving Measure H funds are not building giant facilities. They're using it to upgrade their current infrastructure, to pay for their safety personnel, to do fire mitigation. And we still need to have all those things done, and yet we're committing half of our funds to a giant new facility, which is going to bring us incredible amounts of expenses going forward. We have the $55 million in bonds. We have another $16 million, apparently. We have staffing needs when that comes up. There are going to be ongoing inevitable expenses that are going to be added on. And we all know that our city budget is looking a little grim. So, you know, we have these $55 million in bonds. And was my understanding we were going to do some additional bonds for road repair after this $20 million bond that we have is expended, and I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And so I hope that at the very least going forward that we rein in some of these other expenditures. We've done Firehouse 1 with a temporary facility. We've done incredible, improvements in Firehouse 2. Maybe we could rein back, some of the expenses that we are putting forward and have some of those improvements in deferred maintenance more over time, instead of committing sort of all of our expenses and our available funds towards that.
Thank you. Bryant Moynihan.
Thank you. I appreciate those sensible comments. I don't think this item is properly agendized. It says whether or not we want to issue bonds, and yet what I hear here is how we're going to fund the new public safety structure. And I assume that when you say yes to the bonds, you're saying yes to the project. And I hope that's not the case, because a lot of deliberance should occur. There's a letter in your packet from a fellow named Nick, who points out that you have a lot of capital improvement projects and other funding priorities, like fixing our streets, and you're not weighing that tonight. It's suggested this is a $55 million project. It doesn't suggest that the bonding costs and interest are included in that $55 million. You're looking at $100 million, $100 million boondoggle. Do you really want your name associated with that when you vote yes on this? Or are you going to vote no? You have 4 stations, fire stations in Petaluma. 3 are active. 1 is down on Payran. You could rehab that for a fraction of the cost. You have the Fair Administration Building. You could use that for your fire administration. You could move those tents from Petaluma Boulevard down next to the Payran station, or you could build a couple of new wings for the ladder truck and the engine trucks. And you could do it at a fraction of the cost. Alternatives, no bond issue. What about other alternatives? Doing other capital improvement projects? What about leasing? What are you guys paying now? $10,000 a month for your public works to be up in the Redwood Business Park on Redwood Way? Why can't you lease? Why can't you buy a building? You could buy a building, any office building in town, for $300 a square foot. And you could buy that and be available today. How many years is this going to take as a project? It's not well thought out of. It's terribly expensive. You guys leased space at 1301 South Point for years, and you house city administration there. Why not buy that building? It'd be 1/10 of the cost of what you're proposing tonight. You're not looking at alternatives. And you could also buy a building for with conventional financing. You could use your existing Measure U funds that you're getting a sales tax revenue approximately $18 million a year. You could go a long way to fixing the streets and pay for a new building with conventional financing. That's not being considered. Measure H funds can go to salaries and benefits of fire and police. It's also going to buy equipment. You guys going to, want another fire engine. Do you know how expensive fire engines are? What about another ladder truck? I mean, the boys down at the firehouse are not going to be content picking just the low-hanging fruit forever. They're going to want that higher fruit a second ladder truck would require. So thank you. Vote no.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to public comment on this. And that was, and we're closed. And now we're back to council for council deliberations. Who would like to comment first? Councilmember Shribs, thank you.
So first, from the efficiency of operations, I'm seeing that the new facility is actually going to save us money down the future, not cost us money, just for efficiencies of operations, meeting our needs, much better than everything that was just proposed. So I'm quite happy to put my name on this project because I think it's going to save us money in the long run for our future needs. And it's absolutely been essential for 30 years. We've been wanting this for 30 years. So it's time. The only question I have is, again, it comes down to the money, but being that the Measure H is county run and county controlled. So is the county, since we're depending on that money to pass through the county to us to pay for this, do we have guarantees from the county, like a co-signer, like on a house, that we're going to get that much money every single year from here on out? Do we have guarantees from the county that we're getting that?
Yes, so Petaluma in the measure is guaranteed 7.19% of the total sales tax receipts. So that's the $4.5 million that I mentioned that we received in the prior 12 months. And typically, even if there's inflation only and no additional economic activity, you would expect to see that continue to grow. But yes, we are guaranteed that 7.19%. That cannot be changed at this point.
Good. So the other part of that is projections for the future, 30 years. Right now, given the situation that things may possibly collapse economically globally, we may end up with a huge depression. Is there any, is the bonds completely tied to Measure H so that Measure H collapses because the whole economy collapses? Does that put the burden back on the city to pay for it all, or does the bonds folks take the burden?
So the obligation on the Measure H sales tax bonds is only for Measure H revenues. So if some calamity occurred and we no longer had Measure H revenues to pay those bonds, the city would not be under an obligation to use other revenues to pay the bonds.
Okay, that says to me low risk overall for this and opportunity, and we need to go for it. Anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you very much.
No, I'll just make a comment.
Thank you, Councilmember Kato Thompson.
That, if people actually went and toured the other facilities, they'd understand the needs. Our old our old police station was a mortuary before. It's been outdated for the last 30 years. And cities have a responsibility to keep police and fire services. And this is in the center of our town. It's been something that the city has been talking about for many years. The property is our property, so we're not purchasing it. And so it's on city property, and I'm pleased that this is finally coming to us. And I'm looking forward to the final stamp and the day that you do the ribbon cutting to start this project. And I'll make a motion.
Keep that thought, and I'll come right back on that. Vice Mayor DeCarli?
Brian, I think you had said, previously that we won't know what the interest rate will be until we, go for a bond. Is it anticipated how much extra money this is going to cost us in just interest alone on top of the 55?
We will have that number once we know the final interest cost. The current estimate is about 4.3% plus or minus would be the interest rate. So then we could do the math on what the total interest will be. And Stephen, I don't know if you have that number handy that you could speak to the total amount of interest that will be paid over the 30 years. I think that's the question.
the total amount of interest expense on top of the $55 million borrowing. Yes, it's a high figure. Including the $55 million, there's about another $40 million worth of interest that you'll be paying over 30 years at today's interest rates, or interest rates as of a couple of weeks ago. Actually, there has been some improvement in interest rates lately. This whole situation with the Middle East and the war has raised interest rates quite dramatically, but there seems to be some sort of hope that that situation will remedy itself in the next few weeks, perhaps. So a couple of months from now, when it comes time to sell the bonds, there's a strong hope. It may not come to pass, but there's a strong hope that interest rates will be lower, and maybe that $40 million of interest costs will be closer to $35 million or $30 million, something like that. We'll find out when the time comes.
Okay, but in total, this facility could be $85 to $100 million, and we'd be obligated to that for the next 3 decades or so.
Well, as was mentioned, the bonds can be refunded at lower interest rates in the future, so there is a good chance that there'll be a lower interest rate when the time comes. But in the intervening period, the 1.8 million and the 1.3 million, those figures, those are pretty good estimates. Maybe it'll be a little bit lower, but it's a considerable financial obligation that the city is undertaking.
And I would just add that, this really is the way that public agencies are able to finance large capital improvements that are going to serve the city for 30 to 50 years. If we only were using our annual allotment of Measure H, we would really just have to stockpile it in the bank, perhaps, for 20 years before we were able to afford a facility. This bonding allows us to front the money, be able to construct the facility, and then we are able to get the use out of that facility for all of those years right away as soon as it's constructed, instead of having to wait until we're able to cash fund a large type of investment like this.
Thank you.
So if, as you just said, this facility lasts 30 to maybe 50 years, and it takes us at least 30 years to pay it off, the building's potentially done by the time we're paid off, and then we're on to the next one. And it's just snowballing into...
Yeah, I believe we're envisioning this as at least a 50-year asset, but typically it's good practice to finance a facility for less years than the total useful life of the facility. So there will still be a significant asset of the city on the fairgrounds once the bonds are completely paid off, that we will be able to continue to enjoy and getting a lot of use out of for many years.
You make a good point. That's exactly how major municipal infrastructure is built, whether it's the sewer plant or things. You need to do them all at once, and you need to finance them. It's akin to buying a house. If you ever bought a house and you go to the title company and they show you what you're paying over the 30 years, you'd say, oh, I thought the house was $700,000. But no, it's actually triple that when you count in all the interest. But it's a value of money over time. It's a value, you need to present value these things, and you need to make a decision about whether this is the thing we need to do. So the priority conversation we've been having for the last 2 years, longer. And then, of course, this has been in the general plan and all our plans for the last 25 years, that we know we need this. Plus, we've done the justification for this location. We've had the many conversations about why this is the thing. So the question is this the right financing for it? And we were looking at sinking another $5 million into the police station just to keep them in that shoebox over there. And then we thought about this and said, no, this is the opportunity to do the whole thing right. It's more efficient to have both programs in the same building. I kind of like that we're throwing the firefighters under the bus more often, but they did bring their own cash with, but the chiefs around the county got together and said, what's our most important needs? And each of them had differing important needs. Petaluma went at the table and said, our firehouse is the thing we need, and that's going to take. The plan was established just the way it's going down now, just the way the public voted for it. I'm really glad that we're getting to this point. And if we can buy a building at $300 a square foot, we have other buildings that are in, other employment needs that could be maybe better served if we got them out of and consolidated into single facilities, if we could buy for $300 a square foot. So that's an entertaining adventure forward. And yeah, if you live in a house for 40 years, you remodel sometimes. So there's no question that the tech we put in this new building will all be outdated in 10 minutes. But, we know we reinvest, like our sewer plant right now. It was the state of the art when it got built, and it was bonded. And we might still be paying on the sewer plant bonds. We refinance them to a better rate over time. This is exactly how the process works when you have a real big need like this. Councilmember Now.
Thank you, and I want to take you on a little history lesson. 20 years ago when I was on the council, there was a groundbreaking on Petaluma Boulevard for a fire station that I voted against. And it's now our temporary for fire station number 1 being done, and I was very frowned upon at re-election time for not approving that fire station. It didn't get reelected, but it wasn't the right spot. It wasn't big enough, I knew, for a fire station. And I had been advocating for a police station to be built modern. We need a modern facility. We've got male and female officers. We've got male and female prisoners. We've got male and female victims and their families who need interview spaces that are the right size and not a broom closet. The fairgrounds is the perfect location. It's the corner of the fairgrounds. My voice is going to get higher because I'm so passionate about this. It's not being used. It's a parking lot for the Speedway and overflow for the 1 week fair. I understand we need parking, but we can find parking. But the new safety building will also have our emergency operations center. When the fires happened in 2017, we had an EOC office that was in the break room at the police department on Petaluma Boulevard. That is not appropriate when you have a natural disaster like a fire. The fairgrounds is our evacuation site for the county, pretty much, because they depended on Petaluma because we've withstood the San Francisco earthquake. We withstood the fires that were up north. Petaluma was where everybody came with their trailers when they had animals they needed to evacuate out of agricultural areas. We need to have the police and fire and the EOC right there working with the community at the evacuation center. I also asked in our council questions tonight, and I hope everybody gets a chance to look at the answer because it was published after 3 o'clock. We have surplus land once we move into that new facility. The Petaluma Boulevard at the police station will be sold. I think it's $55 million is what we hope is going to be the contribution. I'm sorry. This is why I need my glasses. $5 million contribution to the project. Oh, sorry about that. That's why I need glasses. And then we also have the surplus land where the little parcel where temporary firehouse number 1 is located right now. So that is property that we can use to pay off this loan even sooner, correct? So I will be going forward with this, and I don't like debt any more than anybody else, but it's very, very much needed for the community and the county. And there's going to be 3 resolutions, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, indeed. And let me explain the voting and ask a question of the council. As Mr. Cochran explained, there's a resolution for the sales tax issue, that bonds that we're talking about. There's a resolution for the city on the lease bonds that we're talking about. And then there's our financing authority. We sit as a financing authority tonight's meeting, and there's a vote, there's a resolution there. So if anyone would like to vote differently on any of those 3, we'll break it out. But if you're in a sense that you're of the same mind on all three, we can do one motion for three resolutions. So let me poll, kind of straw poll. Is anybody feeling they're going to vote differently on any one of those three resolutions? So let's move towards having a resolution. And I think, were you there on this already? Looking for, you were, so would you like to make a motion on three resolutions?
Are we going to do all three in one?
Yes.
With all three resolutions in one vote?
Thank you. We have a motion by Cater Thompson.
Second.
And we have a second by Quint. And then we have a roll call vote.
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarly?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for this. Just a big day step forward. I mean, it's not the same as approving the actual building, but it's getting us all lined up for that big day. That was our last agenda item, and so I'd like to remind the council that and the public that we're adjourning the meeting in memory of Rick LaFranchi and Jim Dombrowski tonight. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.